ourselves. Let our smile replace a frown. Take a look at the good that could make you glad you live now. Take a look at you and me. There's more love we could be given. If it's love that's making you sad, then it's not the love you need. Love is supposed to make you happy. Go out and find the love you need. Get up on your feet, get them to moving, move them on down the line. Let your love go for everybody, don't you think it's about time? Take a look around you. Don't let the world bring you down. Take a look around you. Let a smile replace a frown. Take a look around you. Don't let the world bring you down. Take a look around you. Let a smile replace a frown. Take a look around you. Don't let the world bring you down. Take a look around you. Let a smile replace a frown. Take a look around you. Don't let the world bring you down. Take a look around you. Let a smile replace a frown. Take a look around you.
Well, we just thought we'd start things rolling a little bit earlier tonight. I don't know. I just thought I would, really. So I guess that's the pre-roll, or something like that in broadcasting terms. What is it? It's October the 9th. That means it's Thursday. Beautiful day here today. Let's have a beautiful show. Actually, that might not be the word that we use in retrospect, will it? Welcome, everybody, to Paul English Live. Been a fun week, hasn't it? Hey, fun week. People asking for reparations. What are they? Maybe we're all due something. There's got to be some kind of a payout, right? I just coughed then, so I had to put myself on mute. So this is why it's that kind of a start. Anyway, hi everyone, welcome to the show. Paul English Live. We're here rocking out on WBN 324, Eurofolk Radio, Radio SOAPBOX. We're on Rumble, we're on YouTube, and a few other places. Global Voice Network, Holy Land Radio. And good to be with you this week. Slightly different technical setup, not that you need to know that, but it should prove to be a bit simpler. Famous last words. There's always something going on anyway. But I think all streams checked here seem to be working okay. So welcome on board. Lots of... do you like the picture for today's show? I think a lot of people do. I know I do. I've had it on file for yonks and never thought there'd be a good time to use it. But it's such a splendid image, isn't it? Isn't it splendid? And we'll talk quite a bit about this. Actually, there is a bit of a background reason for why I selected it this week. But I'm, of course, ably joined, as usual, by our partners in crime here. Eric von Essex is sitting in the studio, ready to blast off into orbit. Eric, good evening to you. How are you?
Good evening to you. Oh, I'm absolutely spiffing this evening. It's been a bit of an overcast day here and a bit miserable, but apart from that, I think the sun shines from our hearts, so that's all that matters, isn't it? Really. And I've been, I've been actually watching David Irving about Churchill. Very interesting. Oh, by the way, when we say the word,
so have I today. How about that?
Really? And hang
Yeah,
on,
I
we've
was-
got to grasp our lapel. Are you grasping your lapel? Because you've got to look skyward and say, great man. You've got to do it theatrical. You've got to say 3 times, a great man. And then swallow. Like, that's the way we've been trained to do it, you see. And do you know what Churchill did in the 90s? It was a bit harder to do it, you see. And do you know what Churchill did?
Just a minute. Hold on.
There
There we go. That'll stop it.
We got a bit
It's
of
okay.
trouble.
No, I just had a monitoring thing coming back. There's always something to keep it fun. Anyway, where were we? I always like to keep me and you and everybody else on their toes.
Yes.
So that there's always one
Well-
audio gaff. So there we go. But
That's right. Well, do you know what he did actually? Hang on. Great man. Have you got a sick bag ready when I say that? Because
several.
he actually was. He was actually did fraud. He was a professional fraudster in the art world. And people go, what? Yes. Well, David Irving looked it up, and he went under the pseudonym of Charles Marin.
Did he?
And he sent his paintings to some sort of like French art galleries, signed Charles Marin, and people thought that it was the actual Charles Marin and paid shed loads of money for his art when they didn't realise it was Churchill. There we go. Isn't that interesting?
Well, I just thought,
Slap
having
my
read all
thigh.
these other things about him, he was one of the most honourable men that never lived.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Well, let's face it. Look at it another way. The breweries would have been in a tough state. People who did the spirits and things like that. That if it wouldn't have been for Churchill, because he saw a sign up, drink Canada Dry, and he went there and did. Sorry.
No, I know. It's a good joke, though, and you should tell it regularly. It's quite good. It's quite good, is that one. It's interesting, though, that you mention David Irving, because I was actually looking for a clip today, and I just didn't have enough time to prepare one. Now, that sounds pathetic, right? And it is, because for years I've had tons of them on file, and there's a really good, we can talk about, we know these details anyway, so we can refer to this. And by the way, the show's not entirely meant to be focused on this, but obviously we've got this fantastic image today, and there's quite a few people have sent in going, wow, look at that. And I've gone, yeah, wow. And if you blow it up really big on your screen, it's even a bigger wow, because it's a very exuberant picture. Of course, this is wrong for us to say things like this because, of course, we're looking at those evil people. Yeah, right. And but apparently they could be happy quite a bit, and this is a good thing. But I couldn't find any clips, Eric. Here's why. Why could I not find a clip? Oh, I found clips, all right. I found tons of them. There's some kind of I'm suspicious of this because I get suspicious of everything. There's some kind of weird vogue with these short clips, particularly with pertinent communications, which are basically what David Irving has always made. There's always some great meaty fact in there, right? They put background music on all of these things, and it's an insidious, an irritating thing. It's irritating beyond belief. I have no idea why people do it. I often I try and use a bit of AI to strip it out, but one of all the tracks I was trying today, I just couldn't get it out. It just sounded awful. And I used to have all of them uncluttered. You just want to hear people talking. I do. I love music. I like talking. I don't want the two mixed. Thank you very much. Generally.
Oh, that gets right up my hooter. And you know who started that off? Disc jockeys on Radio 1. And here we go.
right,
and they have the
mate.
music in the background. Yeah, that's it. And they've got this music in the background. Turn the thing music off. I mean, I agree with you. That gets right up my hooter.
It's good. Well, we are traditional British old farts now, so I really want to play up to the role, and I think that's it. But, so unfortunately, I don't really have one. I couldn't find one that was satisfying. I'd spent 45 minutes on one this morning. You think this show it's not. It takes a long time for me to turn up and cock it up, technically, every Thursday. There's a lot of work goes into that. And I just went, I've been at this 45 minutes and it still sounds like crap. To hell with it. I get very irritated. You need to, this technology is supposed to save you time, not create your, increase your labours, he said, whining. But the reason for the image, by the way, today was, I hadn't really thought about it for this week, but on And the weather's been beautiful here today, by the way. I mean, absolutely spectacular. Yeah, I've been down on the beach. It sounds awfully exotic. Smoking my cigars, drinking brandy, staring at all the fine young girls. No, because it's a little bit cooler, but it's the most beautiful day. There's not a breath of wind. The sea's like a mill pond. The sun was setting. It sets over the sea now. Obviously, as the days are a little bit shorter, not over the land. And so you get this great look at it. I don't know if you've ever done, sun gazing? You know, when the sun's really low in the sky.
Yes, and that's the healthiest time to do it. First thing in the morning and last thing at night.
That's right. So I was there for about 10 minutes just looking at the thing, and it's very good for all sorts of reasons, I think. It makes you think about the sun, doesn't it? And just how far away is it, really? I mean, I don't have a tape measure long enough to measure it. Some people came along and said, how far away is that? I always ask people pointless questions that they can't answer. I don't know. I said, no, you're a big disappointment. And
but Ireland's got a planned mission to land on the sun, haven't they? Did you hear about that?
No.
Yes. And they said, well, isn't it a bit hot? They said, we thought of that. We're going at night. Sorry.
Yes.
This is it's about as authentic as the NASA Mars missions, isn't it? When you see pictures of Devon Island. Oh, sorry, I mean Mars.
Devon Island and Mars, yeah. I was down there Monday, and a neighbour, somebody I know, one of these people that I was talking to, I did talk to him about farm stuff, and he was quite interested in it. So it's taken me a little while. I just keep bumping into people that I've seen quite regularly over the last few years, and they're out and about. And when I bump into them, we sit down and have a chat. Anyway, really nice guy, and we just ended up sitting on the stoop underneath the yacht club. This sounds awfully exotic. It's not a super exotic yacht club, but it's nice to be able to say yacht club, isn't it? Not that I'm a member.
There else.
Yes, it's very nice. We sat on the steps of the yacht club, staring out at the sea, just having a good chat. And it got round to this topic. Okay, so I pushed it round to this topic. But it was a good little sort of, you've probably had things like this. And I bet certain listeners that are always pursuing these communication channels have had a similar sort of thing as well, which is that we start off talking about the state of the country, blah, 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 blah. Why is it like this? And then, of course, I have to go back to this period of history because you have to, I think, if
That's right.
that most of the stuff. And I said, look, so I said a few things. I said, I'll stop if you like. He said, no, I'm interested. Say some more stuff. I said, okay. I said, if you get fed up, just tell me to stop. I said, because I could, there's no end to this, really. So we started just touching on a few of these major pivotal events that brought it about and why people have got a distorted view of that period of history. And I guess in our plucky little way, Eric, and I know we're not alone in this, but the alternative voice space has been pounding away, with little sniper bullets against these howitzers that the mainstream media have got for many a year. But we've got to keep on doing it to try and, at least gain some people's attention and say, look, it's pretty important that you get a right handle on this period of history. Because if you've only got the mainstream media one, you haven't got that. And, it's not a help. It's really very, very unhelpful. In fact, it's designed to make your life as difficult and as unhelpful as it possibly could be. So I went through a lot of these things, a lot of this stuff, the build up to it, particularly the banking side, which is why I put the little comment on today, because it's the key thing. I don't think I used the word usury once, actually, but it's really? Very useful to do it. Yeah, I mean, he's an intelligent guy, so he's a good guy, and he was open. And if he'd told me to stop, I would have stopped. Right? I've learned this. There's a bit of me 10 years ago I would have just pounded on regardless, but I don't now. If people, have had enough. They've had enough. But I probably spoke for about 20, 25 minutes, which is quite a long time to cover a lot of these things, and we didn't even get around to Stalin at all, which was I said, oh well, next I said, then there's Stalin. He went, oh. I said, yeah. I said, but we can cover that when I bump into you in a couple of weeks' time. He said, oh yeah, that would be good. So that's what prompted the selection of that image today, which is a cracker. It's an absolute cracker. And didn't you send me a voice message today, Eric, saying, or somebody did, I think it was you, saying, could you imagine Keir Starmer being in a photograph like that?
Now, it wasn't me that said that, but you're right. You could imagine Keir Starmer being in a photograph like that he couldn't, because when you look at it, look at Chen Min-mao. Do we see any photographs of Chen Min-mao shaking hands with the Chinese people with absolutely thousands of them surrounding him? Nope.
Nope.
Stalin?
No.
Nope. And as I've often said, when Monica Schaefer was on your show, I said, when I was a little kid, I'll never forget it. I was only about, I think I'd hardly started school. Might have been before I started school. They had all the old war films on the television, all the propaganda stuff. And I thought, from that early age, well, as we're such nice people, us nice allies, why weren't the German army falling over themselves to surrender? I mean, surely, we landed at D-Day. The German army said, we're fed up with this nasty Hitler, man. We're going to surrender to these very nice allies.
Yeah.
And that was from a child's point of view. I didn't know anything about it at that stage, or very little. And it puzzled me. Why did they fight so hard when this nasty, evil Hitler man was in charge of them? Why did they fight so hard right up to Berlin? And now I know it took me a time to find the answer to that. But that's from a child's perspective. I was very, very young. And I realise now why they fought on so hard. And they realised that, that's it. Sorry, I had a voice come in.
Hello, Paul. There's a question.
Paul.
Questions are always good things. Hi.
Hi. You got a question, Paul?
I'm looking at that photo. All those flags in the back, isn't that like an Olympic stadium or like an Olympic event?
It might be. It might have been at the Olympics. I don't know.
Would that be flags of attending countries?
Could have been.
It's interesting that you mentioned Churchill, because
holding your lapel.
Video. It was,
yes. Are you holding your lapel? I hope so.
No. I'm not.
Yes.
I don't have a lapel. I'm wearing a T-shirt. But anyway, it's interesting that you mentioned Churchill because Victor Hansen. Ever heard of him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a World War II historian.
Yeah.
There's a YouTube short. It's got like 4.5 million views, and it's still up. Go figure. And it's Victor Hansen going through how Hitler had conquered Europe in World War II. And at the very end of it, he says the only thing that took Hitler down was Churchill.
Yeah, it's true.
It's about it's about 58 seconds. I can play it very quickly and just go through those.
Sure, run it right now
like.
while we're here on this topic. Yeah, run it, Paul. That'd be great.
Okay, here we go. Come on. Don't be stupid.
We're very patient around here.
Oh, right.
Germany invaded Poland with the Soviet Union. 30 days, 28 days, the war was over. Germany invaded Denmark, 1 day. Norway, about 6 weeks. It was over. Germany invaded the Netherlands, Luxembourg, Belgium, and France. Nobody could believe that would be possible. They had not been able to do it in World War I. They'd only gone 70 miles. This time they took the entire Western democracies, all that area, in 7 weeks. Battle of Britain, the first time they had been stopped, but not their army, only their navy and their air force, and they took the Balkans, as you remember, in April of 1941 in Greece and Crete. And all of that period, Germany only lost 100,000 soldiers. Hitler had achieved what nobody else in history had done. Not Napoleon, not Caesar. He had basically combined what is now the European Union. Any country that opposed him were pro-Nazi anyway, Switzerland, Portugal, and Spain. He'd achieve it. The war was over. There was a problem in Britain only because there was this problem called Winston Churchill.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep. And it's not really Churchill, is it? Although, of course, he's the out front drunken sodomite actor that did it. As you can tell, I don't have much of a view of this guy. I think, this is why I was looking, but that's a great clip, Paul. Thank you for that. I mean, I see a lot from him. I think there's one I caught from him the other day, because they pop up a lot, I guess, on your feed when you've looked at one, don't they? But he was talking about the fact that Britain was the only participant that was in the war from day one right through to the end. And he said something in an interesting way, but there's another way of expressing it. He said that basically there was no reason for Britain to go to war, but they did it to defend the freedom of the other nations. That's a lovely way of putting it. I don't buy that at all. That's not true. That's not what happened. But it sounds great, and it looks good. It makes for good copy, and particularly when you're writing the history books. The reason that it happened, as we all know, is that the bankers got hold of Churchill and said, "You've got to stop this. We're going to stop this. This is what's going to happen.
Yes.
And you're going to stop it." And Irving's comments, this is why I was looking for a clip. And if you're not familiar with it, we'll dig some up for future shows, because this is going to be a recurring theme, probably until I drop dead, I suppose. It's that important. I think there are 4 or 5 massively important topics, and the total misunderstanding of this period of history is one of them. I know that we are derided by established historians, and they can deride away, because I deride them back, court historians. They're not really worth the paper that they're printed on, because it's tame. They won't ask the questions that need to be asked. And I think
spot on.
One of the things that Irving was saying in one of the clips is to do with the whole of Churchill's personal finances, which are absolutely pivotal in his ability to be manipulated. It's, and what he did in taking the empire as it was, which was already sort of reeling a bit anyway, is he flushed it completely down the toilet.
Yes,
he's the greatest enemy the British have ever had. He basically allowed and enabled communism, globalism, to come all the way into Europe. He opposed the one nation that sent us 38 offerings of peace, that didn't want war with us at all, and had even offered in other letters, I think from the one at Dunkirk, I think there's that meeting where Hitler recalled all his tank commanders back to Berlin about a week after Dunkirk, when they'd been given these orders to not shell the beach, and he told them that they didn't want to take on the empire because administering it was just too big a task, and it was being run well, and he would send divisions of German troops anywhere in the world where the empire was being threatened. He wanted to work with us. Well, of course, the people that actually run this country, not the British, who would have hooked up with the Germans easily, really, there wouldn't have been a problem with it, we were in charge. And so he literally flushed and destroyed 200 years worth of building and stuff. And of course, you can criticize the empire for stuff, and I do, because I don't think there really was one. We were cannon fodder in that as well. But there was, it's not all bad. It's not all bad. I'm not going to sit around and say it was all bad. We delivered some amazing things around the world at that period of history on the boats. A lot of stuff went on. The law got expanded, tons of stuff. So I view him in a very bad light, and that's a massive understatement. And I'm pretty sure, Eric, you're of a similar persuasion.
Well, yes, because the agreement that Britain had with Poland was identical to the agreement that Britain had with Tibet. But when Chinese tanks rolled into Tibet and Chinese army took over Tibet, there wasn't a whimper. And apparently there's a few letters in the Times, and that was about it. So isn't it strange? What's good for the goose is good for the gander. So we didn't take on China because we wanted to keep the freedom of Tibet. So that just rubs it in, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it does. And I think, obviously the front end war is a horrific, colossal, tragic, loss of life on all sides. It really is. It's just absolutely ridiculous. But that's not even the right word, is it? The thing is that without understanding that mainspring behind it, which is to do with the financial subjugation of the world, you won't understand it. I mean, it's not the only key bit that people need to know, but it's absolutely, I think it's vital to understand this. When I was talking to my neighbour, Nick, about this, I said, "Are you aware of the economic miracle of Germany?" He went, "No." I said, "Oh, I was slightly surprised, because I thought a lot of people would be, but people just don't get exposed to stuff. We're sort of jumping around in it and splashing around in it sort of 24 hours a day, all of these things. And many people just have never really sort of incorporated that into their life, that maybe they didn't need to." And I said, "Well, it's pretty important." I said, this is why it was such a trouble. I said, "There's the reason why that country had to be destroyed by them." I said, it's not, it's not just about Hitler. It's not really just about that. It's about a system. That's why I put the little caption under that picture. It probably is the Olympics or something like that, but you've probably seen many other photos like that of the open top parades and all this, that, and the other. And of course, I've been slightly circumspect about putting any image up for any of the shows that are related to that, purely because of the censorship out there. Maybe this will get flagged. Oh, these guys are Nazis. No, we're not. Nazis sort of disappeared in 1945, but I know that they are meant to persist within the public discourse, because anybody that's not extreme left is obviously a Nazi fascist. You know, if you just want a decent life for you and your family,
we just want the truth.
Yeah. Yeah, we do.
The thing is, we just want the
want
truth. My attitude,
yeah.
Does because I looked into Mao Zedong and people like that. Does that make me a communist? No, it doesn't.
No.
You know, why can't we look into these people? And I just wanted to be like a fly on the wall type of thing. But you know, when you look at, I mean, the late great Dave Starbuck once said, he said, children are very perceptive, and you notice that when Mr. H was around, children would run up to him. Mm-hmm. When Stalin was around, they would run a mile from him. When Churchill was around, they were terrified of him. But Mr. H, or Uncle H, they came to him. And I've seen pictures of children running towards him. And that tells you something, doesn't it? You know?
I think it does. Yeah, it does. I think it tells you a lot of stuff. And it's such a spectacular positive story from 33 onwards, counterbalanced with this tragic ending through to 45. And you see all these criticisms, and from all of them are kind of valid depending on what trousers you've put on that day. I mean, Michael Hoffman has written a book, I've still not got round to reading this, which is highly critical, saying that Hitler was the greatest disaster to befall the Germans because so many of them died and got killed in World War II and all the ruin of it. Okay, from a certain perspective, up to a certain level of information, that's right. And he's not Mr. Hoffman's probably even more knowledgeable than I am about it. I'm not trying to be cocky about it. He probably is, right? But I think it's a matter of perspectives with these things. It's so easy to judge everybody, just like we were judging Churchill. But of course, the judgments that I have, or the view I have of Churchill now, is nothing like the one I had 40 years ago when I didn't know anything, when I only had one side of the story and barely that. And I think they're all liable. Yeah, a lot of people died. But I think the real question would be, if you were in that position, what would you do?
Precisely.
What would you do?
Also,
these are, in their position, they had basically shown the world, even though the world wasn't allowed to look, and that's what the bankers were desperately scared of. They'd shown the world how to basically get rid of the bank.
That's
no matter
right.
what you want to say about it.
Also,
we don't actually need one. Thank you very much. We don't need your services.
I don't know. Hang on, I'm sorry about that. My microphone just what's the name?
Did it do a thing?
No,
Did it have
I don't
a
know.
hissy fit?
It had a bit of a hissy fit. But what I was going to say is that I don't know whether the German secret services knew, but according to David Irving, Churchill had a plan to drop anthrax on Germany.
Yeah, he's a lovely guy.
Yes, he was such a nice man, to literally wipe the German race out. And he said if that had happened, Germany would have been uninhabitable to this day, because the islands where they tested anthrax out, I think it's Scottish Islands, until recently they were uninhabitable. That had to really clean them up, and it was a big job. But that was the plan, and he had to be dissuaded from going ahead with it, actually spraying anthrax over Germany.
Yep.
So evil.
Yeah, I don't know if you launch into. I don't know if you get these opportunities, Eric, talking to people about this stuff. It was just on Monday. I mean, I don't know how often we do talk about it on this show. Maybe it's too much, or maybe it's not enough. But all of these things dovetail back into it. I suppose you could talk about it. We could talk about it every week if we wanted to. But it was just in going through these sort of key little significant periods with this guy, I found it really rewarding to do it. It's very satisfying to have someone who genuinely wants to listen to this stuff. It only takes one person.
It is.
It only takes one person going,
yeah, and
I never knew that. Can you tell me a bit more? I go, cool, this is great. Thank you very much for letting me, do my little thing, because you feel as though all the effort's worth it. I know I'm sort of getting my violin out.
You feel great afterwards, don't you?
You do.
Yeah.
You bloody do.
You do.
And I'm just going, And what it makes me think, because no doubt, maybe you doubt yourself. I don't doubt the information. I just think, are we doing the right thing? And I need to get one positive response from one person. I go, no, this is the right thing. I know it's ridiculous. It's like sniper technique. One person a day for 10 million years, and we might get there. But still, it's what you can do. And there are people that are not interested at all. So it gives me hope. Is that the right word? Maybe it gives me encouragement that it's all worthwhile. Yeah.
Also, the night of was it either Kristallnacht or I think it was Kristallnacht, but don't quote me on that. That Mr. H went absolutely ballistic, and he said he didn't want anybody harmed. And when he heard that there was businesses of the people we're not allowed to criticise being smashed up, he really did get angry, and he gave an direct order that he didn't want those people harmed, and that was it. And
they were fighting basically with one arm tied behind their back, and they were also, I think, in the sense that, and this is right that they did this, they still had more than 1 foot in the realm of chivalry. I'm serious, they did, and Churchill didn't. Churchill didn't, in my view. I mean, the mere fact that he'd even consider dropping anthrax just really reveals everything about his character. And this whole situation with him living at Chartwell with 40 people, he had 40 people on his payroll on a backbencher's salary of £500 a year. He's very good with his home bookkeeping. There was an interesting thing I found. Apparently, he became a writer for an American newspaper series. So he wrote War and Peace and Dostoevsky's stuff. What I mean by that, Irving was talking about this. He got a contract, $1,000 a month or something, to write these newspaper articles. And he had to take, say, War and Peace and condense it down into 25 pages. So he did. And he is a good writer. Of that, there's no doubt. The simple directness of his language and the inherent rhythms within it are extremely good. There's no two ways about it. I'd never knock that. And unfortunately, many of the things he said are also very valuable and true. But there was obviously some major kink in his character, which is to do really with his weaknesses of being a drunkard and almost, was he a gambler? I mean, certainly he had to be bailed out. He lost practically everything
was a gambler.
Repeatedly. Yeah.
Yes, but he was actually David Irving in his talk. He said he was actually an alcoholic.
Yeah,
because he had all the traits of an alcoholic, and that's why the Canadian Prime Minister called him a drunken bum in his diary, because he was drunk most of the time. And there was is it Delmer? No, hang on, not Delmer. Sorry, I'm getting muddled up now. There's a chap that used to do all his speeches for him because you could take him off very well.
Norman Shelley.
Tommy Steele's father. Norman Shelley. I'm terribly sorry. Delmore was the other
right.
geezer, wasn't he? Is the black propaganda bloke. But no, what I was going to say is him, and apparently Tommy Steele's father did as well.
Right.
Took Churchill off. So, and they say that the one we can fight him on the beaches wasn't Churchill. It was that other fellow that did it.
Shelley.
So there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shelley
Paul?
did it.
Yeah. Hi.
I don't know where you got that picture. I have scoured the internet, and I even used AI to look for that photo that you have on the internet, and it is not available. However, there is an image of Hitler shaking Jesse Owens' hand.
Right.
But the newspapers of the time, that was the 1936 Berlin Olympics, and the newspapers of the time, the American ones, reported that Hitler snubbed the U.S. Athletes.
Yeah.
When it was actually Franklin Delano Roosevelt who refused to shake Jesse Owens' hand.
That's correct. And Jesse Owens could go anywhere in Germany and was treated very decently. He went into restaurants and places like that. Yet when he went back to America, there was a colour bar and he couldn't go where he wanted. So he said the people were very open to him, and that was in his diaries apparently. That was Jesse Owens' diaries. So there we go.
The disinformation is just prolific.
Yes, and of course it's been around for so long.
Absolutely.
It's been around for so long, and it was echoed in all of the major media channels. This is the stuff that we're dealing with all the time. What's that thing? A lie's halfway around the world by the time the truth just got to the garden gate, something like that. It's difficult, and it's because the truths that need to be told. Were we touching on this the other day? I think we were. The truths that need to be told are, by definition, unpleasant. Because, do you know about this? No. And when you're going to tell somebody something that they don't know, it's nearly always going to be unpleasant, because it's the stuff that the mainstream media has been keeping out of their heads most of their lives, because it's unpleasant, because it runs counter to the fairy tale story that we're supposed to absorb and suck up and all this kind of stuff, I suppose what we need some great staunch advocate for Churchill to be on this show and give us a good verbal tongue lashing, Eric. Maybe that'd be fun. Okay. And tell us what a great guy he was and all this, that, and the other. I mean, every time you do a search on Irving, and I did a few today, there's still loads of stuff going, is anything this guy ever written true and stuff like that? And you're looking at these comments and you're going, have you seen the sheer volume of work that this man's produced? Just the sheer amount of it, right? And the caliber of scholarship that goes into it, and the quality of the writing. Most people are still not familiar with it because they get balked away from it purely because he's a Holocaust denier or whatever label of disrepute they're going to throw at him today. And it's ridiculous. You even get established historians saying, oh, no, and all this kind of stuff. And they're cranking all these phrases out. And it's like a kid's tea party. I mean, it's worse. You go, is any adults in the conversation, please? Any? I'm not bothered about what you know. I'm bothered about the quality of your behaviour. And they're just like throwing tantrums about this stuff, which tends to someone like me and you, I guess. And then listen, it confirms my prejudices. That's what they'd say I have. Okay, I've got them then, whatever. But they've been formed through study, not because I just walked past a TV set one day and saw something and went, oh, I'll have a bit of that. And it's so major. It really is. It's a major thing. I think, one of the guys I quote here is Legal Man. The guy that's responsible for Barnum World, which you should all still watch if you've not watched it yet. It's fantastic. And it's on YouTube, Barnum World. And I think he put a post up a couple of weeks ago, I probably mentioned it at the time, saying that the misunderstanding about World War II is so colossal and is so important that we've got very little chance while people are going around in a complete fog about it. And even now, today, you still see this Nazi stuff coming up and you're going, oh, Lord, help me. Really? Haven't these people ever stopped to go, maybe I ought to just make my own inquiries? Why don't I do that? No, they don't do it. That's the problem. Well, it's a key part.
Yeah, but they have to justify a war. For example, after the First World War, there was no justification for it. And there was almost a revolution in this country, and we was very, very close to it.
Yeah.
And, I've said this sort of 1,000 times before, the stuff that we're hearing now, like, there's a spiritual awakening, that was invented by the Secret Services in 1919. So that people, and it was all in this direction. I won't go into that because I've gone into it 1,000 times before. And for 1,000,000 times I must stop exaggerating. But no, what I was going to say is that I've gone into that before. But the real fact of the matter is there had to be a justification for World War II, because they knew that if there wasn't a justification, then there would be an uprising after that war. So they have to keep on and on and on and on and on. So people say, oh, yes, we fought the naughty Nazis. We did a marvellous thing. We showed them what to do. Otherwise, we'd have been goose-stepping everywhere and,
all these cliches.
And all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
yes. But
it's tragic. It is. It's moronic. Yeah. Unbelievably so.
It is.
I guess, Eric, having been one of those people when I was 18, not that I was sort of ardently, I didn't have my nose in this stuff then, but yeah, the cascading effect of mainstream conditioning affected me as well, and not having any sort of access to books that would rebut it or showing an interest, frankly. I mean, there were a lot of people, there were kids at school that were really into World War II. I found them a bit nerdy because they just was collecting uniforms and all this kind of stuff. I go, what the hell's that to do with it?
Yeah, there was, yeah.
But for me personally, once the banking angle led into it, you go, oh, here we go. here we go. And then you see that all of these conflicts, they've always got this thread. And it's that people are subjugated through the administration of the bank, which is to be given to reputable people, you see. And so you've got all these bizarre stories and backstories to this entire conflict, such as, and we mentioned this, didn't we, a few weeks ago, you've got Montague Norman, the head of the Bank of England, being his best mate is Hjalmar Schacht, the head of the German Bundesbank, or whatever it was called at the time. This is in the late 20s, and they'd been talking away and writing letters away like Billio for 40, 45 years or something like that, right, about forming the Bank of International Settlements. Those two guys wanted it more than anything else to provide this super flexible thing. And then you find out that Schacht opposed Hitler's economic measures, which were basically the measures that began pulling them away from the control of the central banking mob. He took them away from the central bank mafia. That's what he did. That's why all those people, that's why I put the caption. That's why all those people are smiling. They may not have known they were smiling for that, but when I look at them, I put my spin on it and I'm going, I want to stand in a crowd like that, knowing that I'm amongst a bunch of people where their own economic efforts, most of it is going to go back into their own pocket. How about that as an idea? No communism, no capitalism, none of that crap. Let's just organize and work together as a tribe, which is what they did. That's why this story won't die, because even though people intellectually have got all this other guff in the front of their head, at the base of them, there's something that they can't stop looking at this period of history. I even saw something today saying, oh, not another book about Hitler. It won't end. They're not going to end because there's something else going on above and beyond even the mechanics of the whole thing. There really is.
But look at Gaddafi. Now, I've seen a YouTube video, and I can't find it. It must have been taken down, of him in an open-top car. And it's no, what's this modern thing now? It hasn't been tampered with. It was an actual film. I've been going round the streets and people rushing out, and similar to what that photograph, people absolutely loving him. Why? Because the people themselves prospered from the country. And when the country got richer, they got richer, instead of what we got now, where the country gets richer and everybody gets poorer. Yeah, that's the thing. And when you see how pessimistic people are in this country, look at what their look on their faces, optimism. And this is what we used to have until about the 1970s. Optimism in this country is gone.
Yeah, and the chirpy British character is hard to find. It's still out there. I do my best. I think you do. You do more than your best. You've got your batting average is very high. It's almost like keeping certain stereotypes alive. I know that I'm acting when I do it. I don't care. Yeah. I mean, people go, it's just an act. Well, everybody's got an act. Which one do you want? You want to be the miserable shit that's not going to achieve anything? Or are we going to... And you need to find allies to do that, don't you? To keep your energy up. It's on these really sort of micro levels of negativity that they begin to cause everything to seize. It's very delicate on one level, and they just don't want a galvanized, alive, vibrant people, which is what you see in that picture. That's why that picture's powerful now. It's really powerful because you go, bloody hell, I don't look at people looking like that at all these days. No, you don't.
I went to the last farm shop within walking distance of my house today. Now, the fact is, up to, say, a decade or two back, you were spoilt for choice. There were, if you want, because it was a lot of farms around where I live. Most of it's been built on now. And I went to this farm, and the woman said, "Oh, they want to build one of these towers. I won't say what type, but it's 5 of them, and they're And British Telecom said that they're literally compulsorily putting this tower on this woman's land."
Right.
And I said, well, okay. I told her what I do on the internet. And that I said, I'll mention it on my show. And she said, we're going to get people, when they come along to erect this thing, to stand, locals are going to stand on the spot to stop them erecting it. She said, because that's going to be within a mile of my house. I don't want to get irradiated by it. And those things make a noise as well. So it's very, very sad what's happening. But they're literally, I said, isn't it lovely to live in a democracy? She said, well, they've said that they can do it. It doesn't matter about what people think. They're putting it in. That's it. Full stop, end of.
Yeah.
And I don't believe in democracy.
Well,
sorry, I said to her, I don't believe in democracy. I don't believe I said we should ignore the government out of existence. So what if the government's oh really? Well, we've got our own police, we've got our own way of doing things, we'll do it out what that pleases the people, and we've got our own currency. So sod off, government, you can go and play with the usury scam, That's it.
I think that idea and that attitude is worth spreading. It might not succeed, but what else are you going to do? You just have to keep pounding away, and we tried A, we'll try B, we'll try C. Okay, try it all again, and just keep going because it's an honourable thing to do. I think the main thing, Eric, with the democracy stuff is that it just opens the portals for infection, which is why it was furnished upon us.
Well, it's a word, isn't it? It's a bit like I said to her, there's a shelf of jam. There was a shelf of jam on her in her shop. You see, the farm shop. I said, well, if I said that is a shelf of vodka, you could believe it's a shelf of vodka, but it isn't. It's a shelf of jam. And I said, this is the way governments change words. Council tax. It's not council tax. It's protection racket. That's all it is, because there's no difference between that and the mafia's protection racket. You pay money in, and if you don't pay money to these people, they'll either, if it's the mafia, they'll either destroy you physically, or if it's the local council, they'll destroy you psychologically. Same difference. So what's the difference?
Yeah.
That's it. And they just changed these words, like they called it community charge. Doesn't that sound nice? Why don't they just call it theft? Why do you call it tax? It's theft. Because if it came back to the people, fine, but it doesn't. It's taking money out of false pretenses. It's really, it is literally. I look on government as the mob. That's how I think we should describe them. The mob, nothing more, nothing less. And I look at anybody in the political realm. Well, I don't know of anybody that I would really trust, or not even the ones that backbite and so how bad it was. Because what is in the mentality of someone that wants to be a politician? My attitude, that's good enough reason for them not to be a politician. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's... I know we're going over familiar ground, but it's worth it. It's worth going over familiar ground. I suppose you end up sort of, it's like paring down a soup. You end up getting to the essence of it and you go, really, this is the key stuff that we need to keep addressing and looking at and trying to find a way of introducing it to wider audiences, which is a great challenge, of course. Well, at least we've got this for now in whatever capacity we've got it. And we could pretend, say, that we're shadow banned or something like that. I don't know whether we are. It's going to be impossible for us to find out. But, yeah. Definitely, with your show, what we do here, and a few others as well, we're trying to sort of, to keep this going. Some good comments coming in, by the way. Cat17, or is it Catty7? Mentions the thing that we talked about just a couple of weeks ago, how the GDP of Germany went up during 33 to 39. It was higher versus the US GDP in 1939. Indeed it was. A population of 80 million had a higher GDP than a population of 150 million. And with, this just shows you what would be possible. Of course, if we do that, all the economists, most are out of a job. You see, it's as if the actual solutions can never, ever be employed because the advisory intellectual class won't have anything to do. That's always been my thought. I just keep thinking, we've actually solved all this. It's in the administration of it, that it all goes wrong. The administration is literally hijacked. They put a front on it. They then control the communications around these things. You can't get access to the true data. They then start telling you stories, and the end result is that they, as the mafia, end up in charge as the middleman of producers and consumers, and you have to go through their marketplaces, either, marketplaces of currency, marketplaces of ideas, courtesy of the media, and they're controlling it all. And you can't sort of articulate it when you're young, but the more you look at it, you go, well, this is why things are so crap. I've had an experience recently having to send forms off to private companies where I've been dealt with pretty quickly, and to a council. I won't go into what it's about. But it's not that the people at the council are bad or anything. I can't be bothered to get angry with anybody, but the form that came back from the council was like 12 pages long. And it's mad. It's absolutely mad. And I look at these things and you go, well, it's only a 12-page thing, right? But it's indicative of a kind of mental crippling that's taken place in the administration of things. And it's worth, I mentioned this to Nick on Monday. I've said it here before, but I'll say it again. 1859, the civil service running the entire empire at the time, 16,000 people in 1859. In 2025, the civil service to run the UK, which doesn't exist, this political construct, 500,000. 500,000 compared to 16,000. And they've got computers, which are supposed to simplify things, aren't they? Or remove the burdensomeness of administrative work? Aren't they supposed to do that, Eric? Or am I sort of...
Yeah.
Am I sort
Oh,
of...
yes.
What's going on?
But these computers go wrong.
Oh, do
because
they?
my local council, they sent me this snotty thing that they said that I haven't paid the protection racket or council tax for 2 months because I paid it via PayPoint, not PayPal, PayPoint.
Troublemaker.
And I contacted PayPoint, and they said the council have it's gone into their account. So I've sent them letters since the beginning of September and they haven't answered them. I sent them a cheque and they haven't cashed it for October protection racket, and it's what's today, the 9th, it still hasn't been cashed. So I'm going to send back to them and say that unless they can prove to me that it's pointless me trying to pay them because they don't accept my money, so I'm going to stop paying until they what's the point? So I'm not refusing to pay, but I'm just, I better stop paying until they can show me a way that they can accept my money because they're not accepting it. So that's it. I hold back because really they are registered on Dun and Bradstreet. If you look at Dun Bradstreet, your local council is registered. They are a company and they've got as much right to put council tax or an invoice in April every year. They've got much right to do that as a supermarket has. Yep. They don't have really any right at all. And all you really need to do is to ask them for an invoice. Can I have an itemised bill of what you've actually done, the services provided? And the answer is they can't do it. They're actually working illegally and have been doing so since 1973. So, this is the thing when we went into the EU. So the council, though, I mean, the people are very nice, as you say, who work for them, but the high-ups, well, what they earn and what they do is questionable. And do we need a council? I don't think we do. I mean...
Well, I think Keir Starmer's going to save us, isn't he?
Oh, what? Well, he might say, I'll tell you something else he might say. For 4 days... it's like Niagara Falls. There's water pouring down the lane, which is at the top of my garden.
Right.
And it's coming from a water mains, which is about a couple of 100 yards up into another lane. And it's been pumping out for almost a week. And apparently the water people have been told about it. But they might start work tomorrow, or they might have to start work on Monday. But they put traffic lights there to stop the traffic, to hold the traffic up. So the traffic are being held up for no works whatsoever. So they're going to be held up all over the weekend as well. I mean, it's just bonkers, and people are now ignoring the traffic lights and just driving along normally because it's pointless. Traffic lights are not serving any purpose. So all that clean water, and it is clean water, drinking water, is just being flushed away. And it'd be about a week's worth. Must be gallons and gallons, just, And why? Because they keep repairing this water main along this lane, and they're bodging it, and it lasts for about a year, and it cracks again. And it just cracks, and it cracks in a different place every time. Why? Because they don't repair it properly. That's it. So that's my little grumble. But local authorities are exercises in waste. As far as I'm concerned, their bureaucracy is waste, total waste, and we do not need them. And as for civil service, well, I've got a little story about the civil service. Would you like to hear it, boys and girls?
Oh, I'm thrilled. Will I be able to stay awake, Eric?
You might do. But very quickly,
I'm
I used to
teasing
work
you.
alongside the civil service.
Yes.
I was freelance, I hasten to add, and it was the biggest cultural shock I think us contract blokes ever had, because you do not actually, you go into kind of orbital eccentricity. So if you want to go from point A to point B, it's in a straight line, not with the civil service. You go into like an orbit and try and collide with what you want to achieve. And what happened, this was when the RA bombed Longacre, a pub they bombed, and I was actually the opposite side of this pub in my office, and I thought the window was going to come in. So boom, when the bomb went off, and was all ordered out of the office and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, what happened is, as we were as an architects department, they said, any ideas in case, another bomb goes off? So I suggested that it was actually the building where Yogi Baird made his first television transmission.
All right.
That was the building it was in. Not Hi Boo Boo, not that Yogi Baird, but the other one. Yeah. And I don't know whether it's tough and glass or what, but it was built in the 1920s, this building, and it had this water, lots of glass. So I said, well, why not put net curtaining round? So if there's an explosion, any shades of glass will go into the net curtaining and prevent any injuries. And there was a place around the corner that was prepared to do it, and I can't remember the exact cost. I think it was about £1,000 because it's a big office. And what the civil service did was they got risk assessment in a private risk assessment firm, and I think it was £15,000 they spent risk assessment to prove that we don't need the curtains, and we couldn't actually hire these people to put the net curtains up anyway, because they had to be on an approved list, and the person that was on the approved list was £3,000, 3 times as much. But we couldn't use them because of the risk assessment. So they spent £15,000 to save £1,000, and they said, "Well, it's very good value for money." And that's how they think.
It's didn't they just spend £500,000 changing the colour of a dot in a government logo or something last week?
Yeah, that's it. Yes, that was it. Yes,
it's done to wind us up as well. I mean, this has got to be done to wind us up. But basically, all of these things that keep happening, and they've been happening for decades, they're just a symptom of this sort of ongoing demoralisation process, where we are supposed to view this stuff, which of course you can't avoid. It keeps tumbling around, doesn't it? And to come to the view that we can't do anything. And after a while, I've been told that for 20 years, you can't. You don't become a competent people. You become the incompetent people they've been saying you are for the last 20 years. That's what's actually going to happen. It is happening. That's why people probably look kind of, not so happy out there and everything. All that kind of stuff.
There was a fella on my show a couple of weeks back, I can't even remember his name, talking about what's that myth, that area that's supposed to have existed. It starts with T. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. Tartaria, thanks. I thought, as I say, a little joke, here it comes. I thought Tartaria was the red light district. Anyway, boom. And yes, and what happened is I saw another video of his. He's talking to another person because he was a Freemason, apparently. And he met a high-level Freemason who said, "I'm sorry I'm late to this whatever meeting because we was discussing who's going to be the next Prime Minister, and it will be Bozo, Boris."
Yep.
And he said Boris must have been surprised because they choose what the next Prime Minister's going to be.
Yes.
And I can't remember what video it was on, but they
hasn't Nigel already been chosen? Don't you think, Eric? Hasn't Nigel already?
Oh yes, I think he's been chosen. And what you'll have is exactly the same as when Blair came to power and when Trump came to power. You'll have about 3 months, and you think, always carrying out all what he said he's going to do. And then, after about 3 to 6 months, I think they're asked into a little room. A bit like what that comedian said. Like in America, the president is asked into a little room, and they show you a picture of Kennedy being assassinated from a different angle.
Yeah. And
then they say, right, you do what we say. Any questions, Mr. President? And that's it. And I think they do the same here. They're let off the leash for about 3 months, and then if you don't do what we say, then it's going to be
their system's working.
You can have a
perfectly
free
for them.
wooden overcoat.
It works perfect as the system.
Yes.
It's just
It
particularly
does.
when they've got a lot of people believing that it actually makes a difference. Anyway, we're just coming to the end of the hour. I've got a very long song to play. Very long. It's actually 2 songs back to back. I stumbled across this the other day, and I'm going to try and do something. So this is potentially fraught with technical hell coming up. There's a video of it. It's actually a music track, and I want to play it into the video streams, and I think I might be able to do this. So we're going to do it. It runs for 7 minutes. I'm going to warn you now, it's in 2 parts, very distinct parts, and the first part is very heavy. It's unlike anything I've ever really played. Okay, it's an extremely somber and gritty sort of thing, but it's quite it's a very interesting song. There's a reason I want to play it. It came out about 6 years ago, before all the AI stuff really hit in vogue. It's called Infernal Machines, right, by The Divine Comedy, followed by something else. So you got 7 minutes. You can make 2 cups of tea during this one, if I get this right.
Oh, that's
and then
good.
we'll be coming back in the second half. You're listening to Paul English here on WBN 324. We'll be back after this song. Fingers crossed it's going to work. Here we go. Will it work? I don't know. It does.
Machines that do this, machines that do that, machines that go hiss, machines that go quack, machines that can give us the things that we lack, machines that do this, machines that do that. Machines that do all the things we cannot, machines that recall the things we forgot, machines in our offices, schools and shops, machines that do all the things we cannot. Machines down below, machines up above, machines making clothes, machines making love. These are the things that dreams are made of. Machines down below, machines up above. Machines that go ping, machines that go pong, machines that can sing, machines that can sounds, machines that can think that know right from wrong, machines that go ping, machines that go pong. crazy algorithm has you in its sway. It's making the decisions for you every day. You're living in a prison of your own design. That crazy algorithm's making up your mind. You never work in this town again, girl. You never work in this town again. You never work in this town again, boy. You never work in this town again. No, no. You'll never work in this town again. You'll never work in this town again. No, no. You'll never work in this town again.
So there we go, the Divine Comedy. And I don't know what you made of that. It's the first time I've ever been able to run a video. It jumped a little bit. Did you catch all of that, Eric, in the studio?
Yes, I saw some of it, and it is very, very good. It's very interesting. It sounds a little bit like Caravan Palace. Have you heard of Caravan Palace?
No, I haven't.
They're a French electro swing sort of group, and very unusual. It's like 1930s music, but with a kind of modern swing to it. It really is a bit catchy. And it's worth watching.
I don't get to listen to lots of stuff recently, but every now and again I'll just will, and I really rate this guy.
Yeah.
I think he's absolutely fantastic. And
Where'd you get it from? Where did you find out about
stumbling
it?
around. Well, I was actually. We're going to play another song by them later on. It's already been mentioned. I've got it lined up. So EXO will be feeling psychic. But there's another song he did called National Express, which is, I think I played it about a year and a half back or something. And I came across it. So I went off and looked for some more stuff by them. He's lyrically and melodically I think, on the highest level. They're barely known, really, but he's got a wicked, cheeky sense of humour. And the lyrics to that thing are so spot on. They're amazing. It's absolutely, I mean, it's one of those things. This is from 6 years ago. This is pre-COVID, I think. I think it's 6 years ago that it came out. Actually, it's longer than that. It's about 2018 from an album called The Office Politics. And someone has said, well, the entire album's amazing. I've only listened to that track on it because I'm just busy. I'll get round to trying to listen to the rest of it. But he comes up with almost like perfect pop songs. Do you know what I mean by that? Where they're just balanced, perfect. You might not like them. Yeah. You might not like all of them. I mean, I don't like them. But you go, wow, this guy really knows his way around music, and he just does instinctively. It's tremendous stuff. He's got a very light, soft, delicate voice, but there's a very keen, sharp, and very humorous intelligence at work, and I love that blend. I thought the video was amazing. The video is absolutely stunning, and it's just got a mood. I don't like that stuff at the beginning. That's not the sort of stuff I listen to. But the reason I played it is that counterpoint. It works. In that instance, it really, really works. It's getting across this industrialization of everything. Machines are just doing everything. I mean, come on. It's really what's taking place. And you'll never work in this town again. Although apparently, according to the government, we're all going to, we're going to create lots of jobs. But nobody knows why. What's the point?
But what? Yeah. But the thing is, we could have... You think how creative our society could be, because whilst the machines are doing all the drudgery and the things that we don't like to do, we could have some absolutely fantastic... You think we could have cathedrals and churches which look absolutely fantastic, houses that look brilliant with craftspeople doing all the beautiful carvings and things like that. We could look at things like that, go into that area where there'd be plenty of work to do, which machines could not do. So that is the way I think we should go.
You know that thing we were talking about the other day. I don't know which show it was, either here or on yours, because we're a right couple of radio tarts in and out of each other's shows all day long. It's tremendous.
That's right.
And I was just talking that it's this thing about their story. It's their story that we consume and respond to. They're the ones telling the story, and we're going, we don't like this. I've been saying that my entire life. No, I don't like that. I don't like that part of the story. No, that's crap. No, an idiot wrote that bit. Oh, God, you're all idiots. Oh, dear. We never get to write our story. And in a way, this picture from today, going back to the 1930s, that's a glimpse into our story. Our story's like that, in part. Not entirely, but it's got the essence of how we want to live. And we're being denied that by effectively an alien ideology that's taken up residence in the heads of basically, I suppose psychopaths. Actually, I saw something the other day. Somebody posted something about Madame Blavatsky during the end of her life. I've got most of her books. I've only sort of nibbled at them every now and again, and people, you want to be watching that stuff and all that. But I'm interested in anything where intelligence has been brought to bear. And apparently, about 2 years before she passed, she was given an insight into soulless people. This is how it's people that exist that haven't got one, right?
That's right.
And it's what we would call psychopaths. And basically the description that she put down in the journal that was being presented in this video was very much along the lines that you and I and many others are aware of and have discussed, that they are effectively like photocopier machines, these people. They mimic emotions, but there's actually nothing really there. They're glassy-eyed. I mean, you look at Starmer. This is a dead fish of a human being. There's something not alive in there that should be there. It ain't there. Yeah. You can feel it.
That's right, Blair. And most of these politicians, I mean, there's a book, what is it now, Puzzling People. I can't remember who it was by now. That was quite interesting, although I do disagree with a lot of what you've put in there. Because, he said that psychopaths tend to have high testosterone and can perspire a lot. I found no.
I do that.
I disagree with it. Yeah, but I perspire a lot, and
I've got masses of testosterone, Eric.
Yes, yeah. Well, I've got loads of it because I'm bleeding bald-headed, and that's a sign of an overload of testosterone, isn't it?
You know what my dad used to say? My dad was like that. My dad was follically challenged from an early age.
Yes,
and he used to say, when people had, my uncles would sometimes tease him about it, but he took it really well. It didn't matter to him. He couldn't give a crap, as nobody should, right? He just said, he said, grass don't grow on a busy street. And I quite like that one.
That's true. Yes,
there you go.
It's very, very true.
And speaking of busy streets and grass not growing, this is a terrible segue.
We got a caller coming.
We have another American has joined us. This is outrageous. We're absolutely overwhelmed with them. But Frederick Blackburn, welcome to the show.
Greetings, good sirs. Thanks for having me back on, and great first hour. I've been taking notes.
Have you?
Good stuff. Yes.
Oh, I don't think we would have touched upon anything that you weren't already fully aware of. But it's always good to air these topics every now and again and bring them out of the cupboard, don't you think? And just take another look yet again and talk about them, just to at least remind ourselves of what's been lost and the lies around all these historical things.
Right. And also, what about the truth about the salute? Because apparently it is not a Roman salute. The Romans did not salute that way. So as I always believed it was, look, I have an open hand and I come in peace. That's what I thought the salute meant. Anybody else any ideas what the salute meant? But apparently it wasn't Roman. So
I don't know, but if you do it in public, it makes woke people cry. So
it does, doesn't it? Yes.
And
come over here and I'll do this on
Germany.
You.
You heard about Brother Alfred Schaefer, right?
Well, I haven't heard the latest.
Shack.
I know he was in and out and on suspension and then released a bit and then they're reviewing his case. But have there been further developments for him?
The further developments. They came for him at 6 a.m. in full battle rattle.
What, today?
And 2 days ago, I got the letter from Miss Monica, or the email from Miss Monica.
Right.
Oh, no.
Yes, and let's see here. So this was on Wednesday, Wacky Wednesday. Anything can happen.
Right.
But, she says that they came for him at 6 a.m. and dragged him off. And nothing. It's interesting that there's no arrest warrants. Nothing's been signed. Nobody will put their name on anything, but following due process nonetheless, but nobody's apparently signing off on this action. So it ought to be interesting in the courts. Apparently he's doing well. It shook him and the wife up, I'm sure, to have that happen when they thought they had everything settled. That's the main thing is, they
like to do things
good.
like that.
Yeah,
he must be. He's got sort of, I don't know. You think that almost it's as if Alfred draws energy from their deranged energy. He's like revampiring them back.
Yes.
At least that's how he comes
at them.
across. I'm sure it must be tough at times, but his buoyancy is, I just wish he'd look. I can't tell him what to do. He's a grown man, but you just think, I've often thought maybe Monica would take issue with me over this as well. I don't know, but I thought, Alfred, there's more than one way to skin a cat, but he likes to skin it this way. So each to their own. But I hope he comes out of that well. Yes. Yeah.
Right. So that was. But just thinking of today's show page and that image and the Roman salute, and that's this is what that, because they lost. Now Germans get thrown into prison for thought crimes and for hate facts. Those horrible hate facts.
Well, we do over here now, don't we?
And now in
Paul.
the UK, and they're trying so hard here in the US, and who'll be on the short list for that one, right?
Yeah.
So I'll be the canary in the coal mine.
You'll end up talking all diffidently and then double entendres like the English do very soon, or the Americans. You won't be able to talk directly with that directness. I don't want you ever to lose that kind of stuff, but it's the creep of it, isn't it? You can see that this is a creep, and the creep works.
Yes.
That's why we have to really transmit urgency. I can't do it all the time. I get burnt out with it, but we've got to transmit urgency. It's why it's worth everybody's while to just keep talking to anybody in the bus queue or anything, and just keep prodding and prodding and prodding. You don't know what you're going to get. There are going to be some really good eggs out there, and we've got to just keep prodding away any opportunity you get, until we can have a mass rally at the Fockham Hall Festival next year.
That's right.
And,
yes.
And all look like that in that picture, Eric. That's what I want. I want to be stood in the Fockham Hall field, the field of Fockham, and we can say, the order goes out. What do you think? Fockham. We all cry.
We say fuck 'em. Yes. That's the best way, because quite honestly, we want to bring back happiness. Because did you know that it affects your cells in your body? If you're depressed, it affects the cells, and you feel ill. Whereas I think that happiness is a form of medicine, unless you've got diarrhea, of course. And then quite honestly, this is what they're doing. They're destroying us through this continuous bland negativeness, nothingness. And these people are mentally ill. There is no ifs and buts about it. Totally mentally sick. And by the way, I guess in America, have you had enough of Trump yet? Or is he?
Oh, is he not turning out to be as good as the newspapers have been telling us for the last umpteen years? He's a bit of a naughty boy, isn't he?
Oh, dear.
The press releases.
What's he been up to now?
What part of America are you from, Blackbird?
I'm over here on the East Coast in the Appalachian Mountains. I'm at about
very
4,000
nice.
feet elevation here on Blackjack Mountain.
Oh, wasn't that nice?
It sounds
I thought
great.
your
doesn't
accent
it?
sounded
I've
a
got to
little,
say,
little
Eric,
bit like Paul's, doesn't it?
Blackjack Mountain.
Yes.
I'm a bit jealous of Frederick. He gets to say that. Here I am living on Blackjack Mountain. I just go, I'm living down in in Worthing. It's just, it's nowhere near as good. You get all the best names. You nicked all the
I'm
really
at
good
box
names.
7.
Well,
I'm
you think
in the
about
Adirondacks.
You're in the
I
Adirondacks.
left my heart.
Yeah, I'm in the Adirondack foothills up in
that
New
sounds
York.
nice too. That sounds lovely.
But why does America have romantic names like I left my heart in San Francisco? It wouldn't sound the same as I left my heart in Bognor. I mean, it just wouldn't rhyme, would it? Or
I left my heart in Bognor Regis. Yeah.
Bognor Regis.
I like these. They're different, though. The English names are different because they are kind of...
Yes.
I used to have that when I was a kid, like I used to live near Scunthorpe. Seriously. You go, what?
Oh.
So all these northern names that we have, you elegantly gifted Americans with your town names and everything, we've got names like Grimsby, Scunthorpe, Scuttleworth, right? Little Cluddington.
Yes.
They're really grungy sort of.
Trotters,
I love them now. I love them now. I love
Trotter's
these
Bottom,
names.
near where I live. Trotter's Bottom is where I live. It's just up the road to me is Trotter's Bottom. Yes.
It was in Trotter's Bottom in 1983 that this political movement sprang up, and they were known as the Bottomists. Yeah. They formed the Bottom Party, and they all got the trots.
Okay. So the names of our locations and our places are precocious and proper. I mean, you have to give us that. I mean, Britain's got the proper of everything else. So,
well, we used to have there's a tea in Britain. I think it was Thai food tea, and their advert was. Excuse me, just have a quick glass of water.
Gin.
Sorry about that, folks.
Gin.
That's it. Was Thai food put the tea? I think was it Tetley put the tea in Britain? But anyway, whatever one it was, doesn't matter. They put the tea in Britain. You see. Mm-hmm. Now, then the joke came out. If they put the tea in Britain, who put the? I won't say the word in Scunthorpe.
I know.
Yes, work it out for yourself. I think you have to.
We
well,
did.
it's probably work out Scun. Yes, so
Regularly
I won't
at
tell you what that is.
school.
It is a family. It's a family show, so I won't. So
Not much of a family now. You've just destroyed it.
If Thai food put the tea in Britain, who wants it in Scunthorpe?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
About-
Exo writes
you're
like
scratching
Boston.
your head. Yes.
We got Boston here. Boston Spa in Lincolnshire. Or Boston, right? And of course, you've got
Yes.
Boston over in the States. Boston, somehow in America,
That's it.
well, obviously it's much, much bigger. And it's the
My
home of the
auntie
Red
lives there.
Sox. And I picked the Red Sox as my baseball team when I first watched baseball on the TV in 1986. I don't know why. I just did. That's when I was sad.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, not my auntie. Sorry, it's my father's cousin lived near Boston. A place called Concord, Massachusetts. There we go.
Frederick,
That
is
sounds
it
like
true that
Concord.
where you live, I was reading something the other day about all the fantastically interesting and rich musical history, right, of your neck of the woods. Were there a lot of Irish and Scots-Irish moved into there at some point during the 1800s that brought all this music with them? Is that the history of it? Something like that?
That's the thing about this region is you had the first wave of English settlers, and that's where my father's family, they trace their lineage back to that
We're
first
very
wave
glad to
came
hear
across.
that, Frederick. Proper.
Yes.
Yes.
Good.
And Blackburn, Lancashire,
Yeah.
But that was where the family originated. Supposedly, that's the family legend, according to my cousin who researches this stuff.
Right.
But anyway, the second wave was what they called the Scot-Irish, though, and that's where you got a lot of the Celtic Irish music into this area that merged with the English that was already there. But and you saw like the development of the dulcimers and hammer dulcimers because you couldn't get the pianos up the mountains, but you could take the soundboards out and play those, and that's basically the development of the hammer dulcimer, and it's just a very unique music style, and also the dances like you have clogging, and you can kind of see how clogging kind of was a derivative of river dance type of movement where it's all in the feet, it's you don't move anything else, right?
Yeah.
So great place, but they are trying their best to blot us out and turn us into just another fake and gay multicultural diversity, inclusivity, blah. Mm-hmm. And that's the big culture war here. It's like in every other white country, and they definitely hit us. Those wonderful chicken swingers with their NGO money, and you're talking about the banks, and just that's the big scam is. You and I, you guys, if we want money, we have to go to the bank and borrow it at interest. The chicken swingers, they just get the money and they don't have to pay interest back. And if they lose it, then it's just kind of written off. If there's a profit made, everybody shares in the profit. And so you've got this two-tiered economic system since, it's basically 1913. When the Federal Reserve, did their coup over us. And so now we're at this part of NGO warfare where you've got all this like BlackRock and Vanguard and George Soros that just have infinity money. and they can just finance all these NGOs. They were actually paying people to move into these areas and be social justice warriors and destroy the existing systems, get rid of those good old boys.
That's it. That's what's happened here.
Yeah, you can't have, like Saul Alinsky says, first step in community organizing is community disorganizing. You destroy the community that was there before you got there, right? And that's what they have done. It's amazing how effective they've been in just like 20 years. This change has happened.
Well, they've actually parachuted people in. The local MP has been, when I say parachuting, metaphorically, nobody voted for him. And the local MP, he's, he speaks like this. He speaks very nice.
Yes.
He's a nice boy. And he's been, and the old woolly old Conservatives, the Blue Rinse Brigade, they can't stand him. They hate his guts. So there he goes. But to me, again, what they say is totally irrelevant because they're not prepared to sort out the economic problems. And you just ask them the same question every time. And what are you going to do about it usually? Hey, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah. It's kind of the fundamental problem, until we solve that. And that was, Uncle H's, big crime was they developed a system that was independent of this, usury syndicate,
And also, if you got married and had one child, you'd have a quarter taken off your mortgage. If you had 2 children, you'd have half taken off your mortgage. And if you had 4 children, you'd have your house for free. Courtesy of the government. No wonder people were shaking his hand. And those type of things, when you hear what Gaddafi did in Libya, very similar. It was there to help people. He wanted everybody to have air conditioning in their house. They lived very, very good lives. But of course, the powers that be, the psychopaths in power, don't like that because they love suffering. They love stress. And people don't really understand the psyche of a psychopath, but that's what it is. They are at their best when people are under stress around them, and that's what they love.
Well, they're energy vampires, aren't they, of a type?
Yeah, that's
they're
right.
kind
That's
of an energy vampire.
Sucking energy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were talking about Blavatsky early and the soulless people. And, her counterpart was, of course, Aleister Crowley. Did you ever read his book, Moonchild? That was the whole
No,
thing.
I've avoided Crowley. I'm aware of Crowley's overall views, and they don't coincide with mine. Let's put it that way.
Oh, no, but, defense against the dark arts here. But, in the Moonchild book, the whole story was they were going to have these ritual births that did not have souls, with the idea of the tabula rasa, that this will be the perfect person that we will be able to program however we want for our purposes.
They've achieved it.
And that was the whole point. And you see, what MK Ultra and all these other programs have done, and the Tavistock Institute, et cetera, is basically destroying what's good and wholesome in these children and then reprogramming them to be the ultimate spies. And there was a really bizarre science fiction book from the 60s called The Violent Man by A.E. von Vogt. And it's about the man with no morals, the total, I just need to get the job done, whatever the job is. The ends justify the means. And basically describing a Mossad Cheka type person that, whatever I'm told to do, I will do with no problem. And that is the mindset of these people. And they are, it's like the werewolf game. They're in all your communities. They're there undermining everything your ancestors built in the shadows. That's the way they operate.
It's as if they're working to destroy the connection between rounded, i.e. us, human beings, and their connection with God, with something higher, with that connection. Because, I've often... we are told they don't have one. Their behaviour with Indianism, but, communism's just as good a place to start as any other because it's the one that's most prevalent in terms of how it's manifest today, is this thing that a mechanistic approach to life is the way to go. And, of course, they're materialists. And I've been watching a few things recently with discussions with an Irish scientific Christian called Lennox. I think his first name is John Lennox. He's a brilliant guy. He's been in all sorts of debates with atheists, and they're worth watching if you want arguments to deal with atheism. Not that atheists don't upset me, frankly. In fact, I think they're quite useful in a way, because they at least get the conversation going, and they get the audience to begin to question certain things. But Lennox effectively dismantles every argument they've got. And this whole thing about a materialistic thing is undermined, I think, by the idea of, well, not the idea, the actuality of death. Death is the biggie, in that, obviously, as far as we're aware, everybody that's ever lived before us that's not alive now died. Everybody, sorry to be so in this, I'm not actually sorry about it. I think it's profound, actually. All of us here, we don't know the day and time of our departure, but we've got one coming up. And everybody that's just been born, they've got one too. Now, I know that they don't want that. That's why that we hear all these stories, don't we, about them mucking around trying to move their soul from one body to another. But this is a bit weird for people that don't really have one or believe in all that kind of stuff. So it's obvious it's some extended hostile war against the higher cosmic authority, however you want to term it. And this is how it kind of manifests in day-to-day living. This is why, liberals, the current modern liberal, is this kind of soulless, reactive, exhausting, tedious dullard, really, and very dangerous, and without doubt the most evil people that have ever lived. And they safeguard. They say, well, we want to help everyone. Oh, if you want to do that, why don't you just kill yourself?
That's when they invaded here after 9/11. That was under the banner of Tikkun Olam. There were all these fluff articles about, we're getting this synagogue, and it's all about Tikkun Olam because we're bound to repair the world. What they didn't say was, and all you white Christians are the problem that has to be fixed. Y'all got to go. They gave us the big print on Tikkun Olam, but not the small print of what they really mean when they start talking about "In God We Trust" and Tikkun Olam and mitzvahs and all those other phrases they use. But they mean it.
Yeah, they do.
They want us gone.
Yeah, they do. They absolutely. It's a very difficult one to get that penny to drop with people. I think, actually, you've just reminded me of something that I might read out in a minute, which I'll dig up, which sort of addresses that. It's about their system as a whole, which is the issue. It's got nothing to do with certain individuals within these groups. They're really good. I think they are. Not that I would associate with them, but unfortunately that doesn't make any difference, because it's the system as a whole has got such momentum behind it, and it's built on, I suppose it's why when we tell these truths that we seek to tell here and establish them, they are the most powerful thing that we can do. It might not seem it, but I'm not aware of anything else much that would be more powerful than that, because it keeps blowing little holes in their lie framework, and it's a considerable lie framework. In fact, it's total. Practically everything they say is not true. And unfortunately, they've managed to convince an awful lot of people about that. Last week I read out that Psalm 73. Don't worry, everybody. I'm not going to read another Psalm out this week, but there might be one coming up in a week or two if I can find another good one. But there's a line in Psalm 73 talking about the wealthy and the successful in the earth don't seem to be plagued by the problems that normal people are plagued by. And what does it say? Their tongue walks through the earth. It's a wonderful phrase. Their tongue walks through the earth. And this is why the psalmist is right. And this is why my people listen to them. They are seduced by this and forget, that there's something else other than physical flesh and blood. I mean, I like my physical flesh and blood, don't get me wrong, and you've got to look after it. But they don't include any of that. It's a complete lie that they do, I mean, Eric, are you familiar with Tikkun Olam? Have you heard of that before? I'm not trying to sort of...
Never heard of it. No, I'm pretty... No, sorry about that. No, don't know anything about it.
It's their... it's, as Frederick was saying, it's the thing that they trot out. It basically means to heal the world. And we're going to heal it. And I'm always going, but I never invited you to. And why do you think that... I don't remember sending you the invite, actually. Yes.
It's a bit like the spiritual awakening that was invented by the Secret Service. And sorry, I didn't mean to cut in there, but what happened is it was so successful that's how the CIA got the idea of dreaming up the hippie movement. And because the CIA, they were America was almost on the point of revolution. So what they do, they brought out the hippie movement, and it's similar to us. There wasn't really a hippie movement after the First World War, but this spiritual awakening thing, spiritualism, and that it actually was a misdirection to stop people thinking about revolting, and that's it. So that's what I think is happening all the time. It's always misdirection to stop people finding the truth, and that's it. So that's my little piece for this evening.
Slaves,
Well, one of the
Frederick. Sorry, please.
Oh, go.
No,
Well,
you say. You had an idea. Go on.
Well, in the first hour you were talking about Churchill, and one of his main handlers was a guy named, unfortunately, Frederick A. Lindemann.
Yes.
I should make him give me my name back. But he was just this total Zionist fanatic that was handling Churchill, and according to Mr. Mike King over at Tomato Bubble, there may have been some homosexual relationship between Winston Churchill and Frederick Lindemann. Yes.
Are you saying that the leader of the free world was a raging?
Well, that's a bit of a bummer, isn't it? To hear that.
Bummer.
Well,
That's a real bummer to hear that one,
I'm
isn't it?
shocked. I'm shocked. I can tell you, Fair took my breath away, but it's completely true. There are some terrible
Really?
stories of him. I've mentioned that thing. I've got a little leaflet kicking around here by Major W.G. Thurgood. I don't know if that's a real name, but it sounds great, doesn't it? It's called That Bastard Churchill. I don't know if you've got it, Eric. You need to get. It's about 25 pages long. It's literally called That Bastard Churchill, and part of it there's a report from his officer training at Sandringham or whatever, where his officer had written down he is a predatory sodomite of the worst kind. I remember things like this. And he was. He raped 2 Irish soldiers in South Africa in a carriage and stuff and got away. And that sort of stuff used to go in the British Army as well, because lots of those public school boys, I'm afraid, are all fiddled with it at their elite education establishments. And then they behave like that for the rest of their life. And it's a bit like this club, and it taps into the sort of buggery things that Crowley talked about. All this kind of stuff. It really is the most filthy, abominable sort of evil behaviour. It really is, but they seem to be inducted into it from an early age, and just
That would explain it.
But
That would explain it, because when you started talking about Churchill and homosexuality, the only thing that came to mind was, how gay would you have to be to actually want him? I've seen pictures.
Paul, I think we better stop this line of thinking right now. I'm feeling a bit ill, frankly. Can we stop this? This
Him
is a
being
British
predatory,
programme.
that explains everything.
Well, what about
That
Bob
explains
Boothby?
everything.
Have you ever seen a picture of Bob Boothby?
Yeah, Lord Boothby.
Because Bob Boothby, he was a MP in the Conservative government, Lord Boothby, in the early 60s. And he was ACDC. He slept with male as well as female. Fat, ugly git. And the Cray twins, who were jolly nice people, in a gang people, used to supply rent boys to him. And
Good Lord.
yes, and if you see, there's a picture of Cliff Richard next to the Cray twins, and lots of famous. Another chap called Sewell, who was a actor, standing next to the Cray twins, and they rubbed shoulders with a lot of high profile people. But
like
yes,
the
Bob
Beatles.
Boothby. Yes,
a lot of,
I'm not
the
sure.
the I Am a Phony group that supposedly was working with Neil Aspinall and other people from Apple. They said that there was a big connection between the Beatles and the Cray twins, and so
Maybe.
so there was some interesting things, especially with the Isle of Wight holiday camps. There was a lot of organized crime going on there. So
Boothby, by the way, as a young man, was the person that Churchill wrote to. There's an extract that came out 25 years ago in the early days of net research and stuff. It's still fun. Of course, now it's being demolished. Now they say, it's not genuine. And I've noticed this. So that first flush of hitherto unknown information that was coming out from 9/11, actually been coming out in the late 90s when the net got rolling, there's all these sort of counter stories have now been built up so that, oh no, that's completely made up, and this is what they say about everything. No, it isn't. And he said to Boothby, the quote is something like, Germany's great crime was to extricate itself from the world financial system and deny the banks their share of the profits. Of what profits? Their share of the profits. And that's, I'm going, great. Why is that a crime? Well, it was for Churchill's employers, basically. And there's that group called the Focus, which is the one that basically paid for his life in the 1930s. They paid all the salaries of the 40 people that worked at Chartwell. And one of the things in one of the Irving clips I was listening to earlier today, just by way of reminder, is that the official biographer for Churchill, Martin Gilbert, I think it is, he was saying that it's a good position to have, but it's also a terrible position to have because he can't write anything, not that he would, right? But he can't write anything that would reflect badly upon him. And therefore, these official autobiographies are practically worthless. They're just propaganda. They're just court historian pap, as usual. And you can't get to the base of it. And you can't see these threads. I mean, you mentioned Mike King as well. I'd love to get him on, Frederick, actually. I love what he does. I've got a lot of his stuff. I spoke to him it must be a long time back now, maybe 10 years or so ago, 2017. That is nearly 10 years ago, isn't it? 8 years ago. And his short booklet on Napoleon is fabulous. I mean, it's about 120 pages long, and it gives you all the meat and potatoes, the real nitty-gritty about Napoleon. And it's worth letting everybody know that more books have been written on Napoleon and Hitler than anybody else in history. I think Hitler's now winning, but Napoleon, it's over 100,000 books. I think Hitler is about 160,000 different books on this whole period. Wow. And there's a lot of parallels between them, a lot. Obviously we get painted history here, but the truth is that they were fighting a defensive war in many cases. It doesn't appear that way, the way it's sent back to us, but they were, to protect what they'd built at home. Although I think that, the origins of the French Revolution are beyond hideous. And like I keep mentioning here from time to time, it really was, there's something psychologically degenerate about it. It's almost Aleister Crowley-like, seriously, I think, in terms of the utter disregard and contempt for the welfare of decent people. It's truly appalling what happened to France. But it's very similar in the sense that they actually were economically the strongest nation in Europe, were France, up to this point. And yet a series of interferences on the money front in the 1780s gave this false causative reason that the royals were basically screwing the country. They weren't. This is all manure, as usual. And it's worth also talking about Edmund Burke, or just putting this out again. Burke was practically the only man in England at the time that opposed it. And he wrote a book called Letters on a Regicide, which is obviously about the killing of King Louis and Marie Antoinette. And at the time, he suffered a lot for it because the agreement in the Continental Club, where all this stuff was planned in London, right, and financed from and aided and abetted from there, they were all against him. But you look at it now and he's just right about everything. Everything. And his question to them, I think I read it out the other week from the essay, was something like, right, now that you've done away with this honour in the laws of God, what are you going to replace it with? What are you going to replace it with? Well, death, basically. That's what they replace it with every single time. So it's almost like the first commie revolution is the French Revolution. I mean, it's the Jacobins, but it's this excessive liberalism, and that crap. What is it? Liberty, fraternity, egalite. What a load of horse shit. It's just unbelievable shite. It really is. So,
well, if you look at different historical things, and like the availability of books and information on it, you really have to wonder, did they do that? Like you said, that Napoleon and Hitler, they there's been more books written about them than anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of like the Google disinformation, the early iteration of the Google disinformation thing, where if you want to search for something, Google will have 10 billion hits on it, but how many of them are factual? So are there a few books on Hitler and a few books on Napoleon that are actually factually correct and that are true, but because they're buried under this mountain of over 100,000 different books,
Yeah.
they're never seen?
Good point. Yeah, it's an excellent point. I mean, I think, I guess that's the negative side of it, and you're probably right, I think. I just, there's something about those characters. Obviously, it's sort of during this industrialization of Europe. I mean, not so much for Napoleon. He had horses and cannons, but the cannons were pretty heavy, nasty things, and he was pretty brilliant with them, wasn't he? I mean, I still marvel at the fact that the French army walked into Russia and back. Well, not many of them walked back. I mean, they lost 85% of all the men that walked in, mainly to the weather. But the idea that you go, right, we're going to walk to Moscow. What? Yeah. We're going to walk there. I mean, I don't know what those guys were made out of. It's an amazing thing. And everybody says that in both cases, both Hitler and Napoleon, it was a big mistake to go into Russia. Well, obviously, yeah, it was. But probably in both cases, they really didn't have much choice, to be quite honest. I mean, in Napoleon's case, it's because Tsar Nicholas, I think it was, basically asked about with him. Or was it Tsar Alexander? I can't remember which one it was. But he lied, basically, and really hacked him off. I think in Hitler's situation, I don't think they had any other choice, really. I just don't think they had any other choice. I know we're drifting into the military stuff, but if you've got a 6 million man army sitting in the east on the border, you're thinking, what's it there for? Who put 6 million armed men there? Having 3 meals a day? I mentioned 18 million meals a day. It costs a lot to have loads of blokes sitting around armed to the teeth. You're thinking, what are they going to do next? So I think, there's so much to it. They're so wide-ranging and such huge lives. I mean, we mentioned it before. I've seen the Napoleon film. I don't know if any of you guys have seen it, by Ridley Scott. It's not bad. It's what I expected it to be. It's not good either, because you can't actually tell that guy's life in 2 3/4 hours. It's not possible. It really does need one of those lavish TV show things in 50 episodes, each episode being 2 hours long. You might just be able to sort of touch on some of the key points in 100 hours. It would take that much to do it. But yeah. Anyway, I mentioned a little bit earlier, Frederick, about slavery. Were many slaves brought into your neck of the woods? And would they have been Irish and English and Scots slaves? I know that many Irish were enslaved and taken to America, but is your area a recipient of that, or is that not part of the traditions and history of where you live?
Not really, especially in the mountains. What you had were pioneer colonialists that wanted to go into the wilderness and build their own little utopia villages away from everything else and be completely independent. A slave model doesn't work in that. What you had were large plantations owned by the chicken swingers, and they were the ones that brought in the majority of the slaves to work those big plantations. But the individual families that colonized these mountains, it was a very alien concept. And what you had was, after the slaves were set free, the rich people, mainly the Jewish carpetbaggers, that owned the textile industries, like in Winston-Salem and Durham, that's in the tobacco industries, that was huge there. They had their places in the mountains, like the Cone Manor, right? Moses Cone, who was just this huge textile baron, total evil man. But he donated his hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of acres as part of the Blue Ridge Parkway project. But all of the slaves in these mansions that these Jews had, they had, their slaves, and when they were set free, they basically just kicked them out, right? And so you had these Christian families that basically took them in, set them up into little sections of town, and looked after them, right? And there's one here in Boone called Junaluska, and they keep trying to make it into this. Black people founded Boone, North Carolina, right? And just make it out that they were the real leaders that settled these mountains. And it's like, no, 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 no. They were basically kicked out slaves that the Christians took in because they had been abandoned by their Jewish owners, right? And so it's interesting how they just keep trying to demonize the South. You talk about, demonizing of Germans and everything, the demonizing of the South for the Civil War. And the whole story of it, that war is just as wrong as World War II. It was not about freeing the slaves in any way, shape, or form. But that's what you get judged by now, that Southerners are bad because they had slaves, and their black people are owed reparations from white Christian people. Mm-hmm. And it's like, we weren't the ones who had the slaves. We weren't the ones that had the slave markets. We weren't the ones that had the slave ships. We weren't the ones running the slave markets, and we weren't the ones having the big plantations, But yet we get blamed, and we're expected to have reparations. Little mountain town of Asheville, North Carolina, actually tried to pass a town ordinance saying that black people were going to be given reparations because of slavery. And the Trump's Department of Justice came in and shut them down and said, no, you're not, because this is completely racist and blah, blah, blah. And if you proceed with this, we're going to take all of you to court. And they dropped the whole thing, so that was pretty interesting. But there's just this real push to really ramp up the racial tensions in America by putting the blacks against the whites and saying, white Southerners are, you're owed something because of those evil white Southern people, right? And so you just see a lot of blacks acting out against whites, and when they say why, and they say because of slavery, and that justifies it, right?
Yeah. I got a little clip here from Thomas Sowell. You'll be familiar with him, Frederick, yeah?
Oh, yes.
And shout out to Exo, I think it was, who sent this in, or sent it to me earlier today. This is 3 minutes long. Thomas Sowell on the real history of slavery and his ancestry, because we're coming up to, this is only 3 minutes. We're going to play this, and then we'll come to the end of the hour, but I want to carry on with this into hour 3. But let's just, I haven't even listened to this, but nearly everything that Sowell says, you can't help but agree with. He's a natural leader of his people if he could get into a position like that. Here he is. On the real history of slavery and his ancestry.
Back to your book, the third chapter is the real history of slavery.
Yes.
What is the real history of slavery?
The slavery was much bigger and involved infinitely more people than people have realized. It was not confined by race. It was not defined by race or created by race. It existed for thousands of years. A history professor had a student come up to him and ask him, well, when did slavery begin? And he said, you're asking the wrong question. The question is, when did freedom begin? Because slavery existed as long as we have any records. And from archaeological finds, we realize that people were enslaving other people before they could read and write. So that's always existed, and it's existed all over the world. The number of white people enslaved by pirates in North Africa was greater than the number of Africans brought to the United States. And yet, that's not even mentioned in most of the discussion. So I tried to look at slavery as a worldwide phenomenon, and it's something that's lasted for thousands of years. I also tried to ask the question, why did it end? It ended here because of a civil war, but it didn't end anywhere else because of that. It took over 100 years to root it out. And again, the literature, there's tons. You can find the shelves groaning with books about the United States, the Western Hemisphere, and Africans, but virtually nothing about the rest of it. This book about the Europeans enslaved by North African pirates came out in 2003. By 2004, you couldn't find a copy. For all practical purposes, going out of print. There was just no interest in it.
What should this knowledge that you put in this chapter, what impact should that have on people who read it in this country? What impact do you want it to have on them?
Well, I guess I want them to understand what the facts are, which is a major undertaking in itself. And also to realize that racism in the United States grew out of slavery, but slavery didn't grow out of racism. The Europeans enslaved other Europeans for centuries before the first African was ever brought to the Western Hemisphere. That wherever there were people that were vulnerable for whatever reason, those were the people that were preyed upon. Even though for most of history, those who enslaved and those who were slaves were the same race.
Have you ever gone back and looked at your own family history?
Not really. No.
You have no idea where your folks came from originally?
No, I guess I don't know even the names of my grandparents.
On both sides?
On both sides. Partly it's because I'm an orphan, and so that there was that link was cut. But I really don't know the names of the people who would be my grandparents in the adoptive family either.
Did you ever know your original parents?
No, I have no. My father died before I was born, and my mother, heavens, I was so young that I have no memory whatever of her.
Thomas Sowell there on the real history of slavery and his ancestry, yeah, Paul.
He was spot on, except for one thing. The Civil War didn't end slavery in the United States. It just changed it from physical slavery on a plantation to debt slavery. It enslaved everyone because it brought in the civil law. So it did not end it in the United States. It made it infinitely worse and spread it out to the whole of the population.
He didn't free the slaves. He just nationalized the plantation and enslaved everybody with the 14th Amendment, the Red Amendment.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah, talking about the pirates, and what people don't understand is in modern current year, there is still a ton of slavery happening in the Muslim world. There's a ton of slavery happening in Israel. There's a ton of sex trafficking slavery in the United States to this day. But, nobody wants to talk about that. They want to talk about, oh, no, let's go back to the Civil War. We always have to go back to the Civil War because that justifies, everything from George Floyd to Black Lives Matter to O.J. Simpson, somehow. It's just that go-to card. It's like the Holocaust. You said something I don't like, so the Holocaust. You said something I don't like, slavery.
Yes. It interferes with the current story. They don't like it. And the Barbary Corsairs thing is huge. I mean, I mentioned it here. I've got a book. I still haven't been able to find it. I've been looking for it for a few days, about the history of Thomas Pellow. I mentioned it last week. The numbers are colossal. The thing, there's a difference, though. There seems to be a difference that Europeans understand that this happened in the past. We do. We're fully aware of it. But, maybe we should get organised, Eric, and sort of send a letter to the Pope and say, look, you've got all this money, and the Roman legions, basically they enslaved us, so we must be owed trillions as well. Aren't we owed money?
That's
everybody
right.
could just blame everybody else.
Well, that's right. They threw my ancestors to the lions, and since then I've had a fear of lions. If a lion walked into the room where I'm now, I'd have a laundry problem.
It's terrible. You've been psychologically damaged. Anyway, look, we're coming to the end.
I have.
Paul. We're coming to the end of hour 2.
Hi,
Pat. You'll just have to. I'm just going to wrap up now. We're just at the end of hour 2, and we're going to carry this thread on after this. You've been listening to Paul English Live here on WBN 324. We're going to be back again same time next week, 3 p.m. US Eastern, 8 p.m. in the UK. If you want to carry on listening, head on over to paulenglishllive.com and click the Rumble or the YouTube link or the SOAPBOX link or whatever link you like, and we carry on. We're going to play out our section here with WBN. With another song from the Divine Comedy, because it's very good. This is National Express. It's very funny, but it's a great term for us. We need to be joining the National Express. We'll tell our American friends what National Express is all about afterwards, if they don't already know. We'll see you same time next week on WBN, but the show goes on the other channels straight after this.
Take the National Express when your life's in a mess. It'll make you smile. All human life is here, from the feeble old deer to the screaming child. From the student who knows that to have one of those size of a small country. And everybody sings, yeah, all right, we're going where the air is tomorrow belongs to me. When you're sad and feeling blue, with nothing better to do, don't just sit there feeling stressed. Take a trip on the National Express. On the National Express. Let's go.
Yeah, I get to do my DJ over voice now. That was the great Neil Hannon and Divine Comedy. Don't know what you thought about that. If you don't know what National Express is, guys, it's a coach firm over here in the UK, okay? It used to exist, called National Express. The lyrics in that are fantastic, and I want to read out verse 2 because I just think this is great. I'm going to read it like a poet or something. It says this: on the National Express, there's a jolly hostess selling crisps and tea. She'll provide you with drinks and theatrical winks for a sky-high fee. Miniskirts were in style when she danced down the aisle back in '63. But it's hard to get by when your arse is the size of a small country. That's lyric writing for you. It's hard to get by when your arse is the size of a small country. It's just tremendous. It's a brilliant video that goes with it as well. It's fantastic stuff. I think he's really rather a wit, that guy, and a great songwriter. So there you go. Anyway, National Express is what we want because we want nationalism back. And of course, now I'm a Nazi. Oh, what a pity. Put my foot in it there. So. Yeah.
No, sorry, you jackbooted it. You didn't put your foot in it. You put your jackboot in it.
Put my jackboot right in there. Yeah, completely.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, if anybody wants to call in, the lines are open. I am looking at the screen. You want to call in and do stuff. We're going to talk a little bit. I wanted to carry on with this. You mentioned reparations, Frederick, just before we went to the break there. And we've had an interesting little development over here this week or last week. There's a chap who was intermittently funny twice back in the 1970s and called Sir Lenny Henry. Sorry? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you were going to say, Eric?
Well, it's a rumour that he's a comedian, isn't it? I think it's a conspiracy theory that someone who's a comedian. I don't know.
He did a few things early on that were funny. I still quite found him eating condensed milk sandwiches on Tiswas when I was a kid really rather amusing. I quite liked that. Not that it ever made me want to drink or eat condensed milk sandwiches, and he did some good impersonations. But anyway, I thought I would shout out to EXO for sending me this thing. This is from Metro, which is a sort of cosmopolitan London rag that's just full of what you would expect. This is from October the 8th. Sir, because he's been knighted, Sir Lenny Henry calls for black people to be paid £18 trillion, well, not too much, in slavery reparations. There we go. And I'll read you a couple of paragraphs here. Not that you will be surprised by any of this, but it says, Sir Lenny Henry believes Britain should pay slavery reparations to the country's black population. The comedian, whose parents were Jamaican immigrants, rose to fame in the early 1980s. His self-titled sketch show, The Lenny Henry Show, first hit screens in 1984. I didn't watch it. While he also went on to found the charity Comic Relief, which is with Richard Curtis. And in recent years, he's appeared in The Lord of the Rings of Power, that dreadful, ridiculous TV series that should never have been made, but does. And he's now co-written a book called The Big Payback, The Case for Reparations for Slavery and How They Would Work, in which he helps to argue that the UK should distribute £18 trillion in compensatory payments. I wonder, gentlemen, what you think Thomas Sowell would say about that. Maybe we ought to introduce Sir Lenny Henry to Thomas Sowell, and they could actually maybe have an intelligent conversation about this. I don't know whether that would be possible. Of course, as a racist, I couldn't possibly do the introductions because that would be just totally not on. But it's one of the more hilarious and goofy things that's happened over here recently. But we get these things from time to time. So, don't know what your thoughts are. I think 18 trillion we can probably afford.
Well, what
that,
about?
couldn't we?
Yeah, but hang on, the white slave trade, so I've heard, went on longer and was more intensive than the black slave trade. And what happened is they needed tribes in Africa to pick up slaves, which was part of their culture, for the white slavers. So because the white people did not go into the interior of Africa at all, they let the tribes so there was a trade going on between black tribes and black slaves. So they were going against their own, so to speak. So but I mean, look at what happened with the Barbary pirates, where they came in and literally took whole villages from the coast, and everybody disappeared into the white slave trade. So we want reparations from the Arabs. I mean, they got enough money. What about Saudi Arabia? Get a bit of money from them. Bob,
Well, why don't we just kill two birds with one stone and say, Lenny, Sir Lenny, sir, you can have your 18 trillion, but you've got to take it from the Muslim community here in Europe. Because they owe us loads of money, so we'll just get them to pay you. And whilst you're doing it, right, it would be actually one of the least beneficial things that they as a people could ever happen to them. It's absolutely ridiculous. In the sense, that's a terrible way of phrasing it. That's soft. I sounded like a right Nelly. It's not ridiculous. It's just sort of symptom of the disease that's taking place. Like we were saying, all other races know that this has gone on and have to put it to one side. What happened to our forefathers is both good and bad. And this won't fix anything. Apart from which, you've got the bizarre situation where he's now living at a higher standard of living than he would have ever have lived had slavery never taken place. I'm not trying to argue for slavery. I'm just saying that is true. So what he's basically saying is, hey, working class English people, you've got to pay to feather my nest for something that you didn't do. It's not really very sensible. Although I guess with a liberal government, they might think they might be able to get away with it. Who knows? Anyway, I've put a few bob aside, Eric. I don't know about you. I could chip in to the 18 trillion quid. I'd be happy. I'm happy to sell my house and all my possessions just to make Sir Lenny Henry happy. It would be.
Well, that's right.
Fantastic. Yes. It would be fantastic.
Sir Lenny Henry.
What about my reparations?
Have you got some due? What are you owed?
Well, of course, everybody does. Everybody does globally, because everybody that has a monetary system that has notes, they're debt slaves.
That's right. So we need to claim off a Rothschilds.
They've actually supported the monetary system for the globe. If it's not backed by gold, it's backed by labor. Well, who owns the labor? I own mine. They took it. Give it back.
You're a troublemaker, Paul. You're just a troublemaker. Let's just
I am a troublemaker.
Let's just give them their
They need to-
money.
the
They're owed every
Rothschilds,
last penny.
The the Rothschilds, the Warburgs, the Federal Reserve, the Bank of England. They need to pay. They need to open their coffers and pay the people.
Okay.
Reparations.
So I agree with you on that. I think that's true. So, do you think we could get Sir Lenny on the show and introduce him to the idea that he can get that, but we don't have it, but we can tell him the people that do, and he needs to go them, and then he can muster the West Indian Afro-Caribbean community that's living here, or however it's described. I'm not trying to rule anybody out. It's the best of my abilities. And they could go to the City of London and say, look, hey, you guys were the ones that were profiting from slavery, so you need to shell it out from your own personal accounts. And we understand. I mean, it'd be nothing. I understand that the Rothschilds have got 500 trillion stuck away somewhere, so it's only an 18 trillion. It's nothing. It's like pocket change to those lads. Right. So they might as well go there. I mean, we just need to get out of the way. We just say, look, yeah, we might owe you, but we're also owed. So what we'll do is the two debts will cancel one another. But in the end, yeah, you go up there and sort it all out for everybody. In fact, you can have 500 trillion if you can get it out of them. You can have the lot, but you've got to leave England. Well, you won't want it. You know, you won't want to buy anything here with it.
The thing is, we don't owe reparations to them.
I know.
Because you didn't own slaves. I didn't own slaves. Okay?
No.
Nobody owes reparations to any race that is alive today, because those people were not in slavery. They were not enslaved.
Well, no. They're enslaved now, but
not
in a different way. We're enslaved now.
Not until the 14th Amendment. Yeah, once the 14th Amendment happened, then they're enslaved, but so were we.
Mm. Well, we've been enslaved since 1694, since the Bank of England. So, and apparently that was set up by the Dutch. So I want a lifetime supply of Edam cheese and cannabis, please. I think that's the least we could ask for, don't you think, Eric? From the Dutch, they owe us all that.
Yes,
I'll take
that. Yes, why not?
They came over here. They just enslaved us with their banking system. I know because I read it in a book. It's Dutch, you know.
I'll take mine in.
Yeah,
and old Oliver Cromwell
and cigars.
Yes, and old Ollie Cromwell. They came back in thanks to Ollie Cromwell as well, didn't they?
They did.
That's the reason why. Yes.
They did.
So
I was a bit disappointed, by the way, the other day you know this, I don't know if you know, chaps, we've got a guy over here who I like a lot called Rupert Lowe, MP, no, maybe I shouldn't say I like him a lot. I'm going to come to rue that, aren't I, down the line when something bad happens. But he's the least worst at the moment, and by such a margin that you could say he's actually one of the few honourable people in politics. But he's not in politics. He's done something much more intelligent, something that we were talking about, actually, for quite a while before he did this, which is that it's not a political party that you want. It's a consumer pressure group. And that's basically what he's formed. Restore Britain is a cross-party sort of event, as it were, with politicians from all sides. I don't know how many at the moment, but they've got a good think tank. They've got a little bit of money behind them, and they're doing work. Anyway, unfortunately, there's a specialist club you can join, Eric. I don't know if you've seen it, for £2,500 a year, so that you're like a mega supporter. And for some people, they'll be able to afford that and want to do it. Unfortunately, they've named it the Cromwell Club. I nearly puked when I saw it.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I just thought, I've got to write to them and say, wrong person. Wrong.
And are they do they aim to sort out the financial problems in this country at all? I should think they're not going to say anything about that. That's my guess.
I doubt if they will to start off with. I'm going to just give them... Look, I've never done that sort of work. Do you know how grindy it all is? I mean, it's unbelievably tedious stuff. You have to have people getting paid to write documents and things. But that said, they've written one. They've actually just put one out. And it got published today. I've got a copy of it here as a PDF. It's 113 pages long. Here's Rupert Lowe talking about it. Let me just play this is a minute and 48 seconds. Here he is talking about it earlier today. It's called, I'll just tell you about the document. What is it called now? Come here. Mass Deportations, Legitimacy, Legality and Logistics. It's very interesting. Here he is talking about it earlier today.
Quote, it's a very exciting day for Restore Britain. As Justice We've just produced our first piece of in-depth, detailed research on a topic which is closest to the heart of our membership who voted for this to be the subject of our first piece of research. It's entitled Mass Deportations, Legitimacy, Legality, and Logistics. So it's been done by my team. I'm incredibly proud of all of them. It's been a huge piece of work. It's not a soundbite. It's not a one-sider. This is a serious read. And I would urge everybody who is concerned about this issue to wade through it. And I think you'll find it quite enlightening. It looks at the constitutional and legal reasons why we have a problem. And it then goes on to talk in detail about what needs to be done to solve the problem legally and also then logistically deal with what has become a massive problem. It will save the country, in our view, conservatively £15 billion a year. That's very conservative. And therefore obviate the need for more statism, more tax increases, more government, more incompetence, and a general malaise which is currently besetting Britain. It requires political will and it requires the right people in charge in order to deliver this. But I think you'll all find it very enlightening, and I would urge everybody, put a cold towel on your head and have a serious read. Enjoy.
So there he was talking a little bit earlier. I've put the link, by the way, to the document for those of you that want it in both the YouTube and the Rumble chat. It's a PDF, 113 pages. I've read about 30 pages this afternoon. I'm going to plough through the rest of it. It's pretty interesting. The first 30 pages are well screwed together. It's a sign of intent, if nothing else. And so he's the only one. These are the only group that are addressing it with a robust, responsible tone and attitude. I don't know what you think about that, Eric, but that's what it sounds like to me at the moment.
Yes.
Can you put the link in the studio chat too?
Yeah, sure. I'll do that in a sec. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah.
Well, they want to abolish mass postal voting because that's the biggest fiddle ever. So that's one thing they're going to do. So they say. Was it direct democracy? Our direct democracy platform has been launched. Has it really? Join Restore Britain to vote on your policy ratification process, which then leads to a full campaign.
You know what?
So
thinking about that, we have mail-in voting as a consequence of George Floyd. You can thank him for mail-in voting here in America. Can't you, Frederick and Paul? Because of the whole COVID lockdown, I guess that's the main reason that we've got it, is because everybody was supposed to be locked down in their houses, and you couldn't go out to the polling stations because it was too dangerous because of the invisible disease that everybody had to mask up for. Which led to this direct democracy now where we don't even question it. Nobody challenged it. When I heard all sorts of people that were against direct voting like that through the mail-in voting before that.
What was it on the Radio Ranch a few days ago? Somebody received a package from Amazon. It was a package that had something in it that they never ordered, but there was also bound stacks of voting forms that were in the box. They were delivered by Amazon.
Ooh.
Yeah. Dropped off by an Amazon delivery truck. But it wound up going to the wrong address, apparently, because they didn't order anything from Amazon. They didn't order what was in the box, but they still got the box and it was literally hundreds of mail-in votes. Literally hundreds of blank vote forms.
Yeah,
what if
here
that was a dead drop.
Dead drop?
I believe it was.
Yeah. It's when you're using somebody else's address and stuff to ship clandestine stuff, but the problem is, getting it before they get it. Because if the person that you're using finds it, that's like this, that's exposed. Why am I getting voting forms when it's possibly some next door neighbor Antifa guy that's using your address, as a sock puppet, basically. That's what a dead drop is.
Sure.
But yeah, they were going everywhere. It's amazing how many voting forms went out during that election while we were under lockdowns. And you have video of people sitting there just stuffing ballot boxes, and they're never arrested. It's like, why aren't these people in front of a firing squad? And it just disappears. And recently here in the States, it was revealed that they were running this operation called Arctic Frost, where the FBI was wiretapping 8 senators that were questioning the election results. After Biden stole the election, they were still questioning it. That was what the whole January 6th, insurrection was
right.
about.
I was just going to say that the real insurrection was the voting fraud.
Yeah, the voting fraud was the real insurrection and treason. But the senators, they were actually listening to their people saying this was a rigged election, and and Biden was using the FBI to spy on them. So that's a big scandal that's breaking here in the States right now.
Interesting.
I was going to say about the reparations here in Wisconsin, we never had slavery, at least as far as our history as a state. In fact, we had the Dred Scott decision was based on a slave that had, I forget where he was from originally, if it was Illinois or Indiana or somewhere, and he fled to Wisconsin, and then it went all the way to the Supreme Court, and then Dred Scott had to go back to the original state he was enslaved in. But and that led to the Civil War. So we're told. Dred Scott.
It was your fault that he had to go back.
No, well, Wisconsin.
It was your very own fault. No, it was your very own fault, Patrick.
I'm with Paul on this, Patrick.
I mean, you should pay reparations.
Yeah, I'm with Paul on this.
I'm appalled, and I'm appalled, and I'm appalled. so I'm doubly upset.
Well, one of the funny things about slavery in North Carolina was the first legal slave owner in the history was a black tobacco farmer named Anthony Johnson, and the largest slaveholder in 1860 was a black plantation owner named William Ellison. And also the Indians, they owned thousands of black slaves, right? The Cherokee and stuff. Mm-hmm. All the so-called, I hate to say Native Americans because they weren't native, but the
Indians.
Indians. They were still killing and eating and enslaving each other when we got here.
Well, you come from the area where Daniel Boone used to be, right, and where he went after the Indians that kidnapped his daughters, shot one of them, and he became a national hero after that. Everybody wanted to be like Daniel Boone. Even it was the Last of the Mohicans, James Fenimore Cooper, all those leather stocking tales that were based off of Daniel Boone and the adventures in the wilderness, going from the colonial outposts into the woods, into the forests where all the natives were, the Wild West. That's where we get the idea of a Western from our fiction.
I mean, the Black Lives Matter movement, they got quite a bit of money, didn't they? They used it really constructively, didn't they, I think?
Buying houses and such.
Yeah, that's right. They put it into bricks and mortar for the organizers of Black Lives Matter, didn't they? At least they did okay out of it. That's what, at least somebody benefited a little bit. So, yeah, very honorable and integrity-driven process they had there. No doubt Sir Lenny Henry would be looking for something similar, I guess, amongst this ridiculous proposal that he's trying to gain traction on. I mean, we shouldn't really give it airtime. It should go into the sort of comedy section of the show, which it has done, I suppose, automatically, even though we weren't laughing too much. The Black Lives Matter thing, all of these things. I'm just thinking back now, the last 5 or 6 years, the amount of pantomime horse shit that we have to be on the receiving end. I mean, it just doesn't stop, does it? It's considerable. They've obviously got a little sort of storytelling factory out there that goes, oh, right, now we wait, you run that one for 9 months, and then we'll have a little break, and then we've got something dafter coming up next. And on it goes, and on it goes, yeah.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? It really is. But the thing is that they try and, let's put it this way, there's two versions of history always, the Hollywood version and what really happened. But unfortunately, the majority of people believe the Hollywood version, and that happens every time.
Well, I think it's time for Fockham Hall Studios to get built and set up and get into production, Eric.
I agree with you. And
Yeah,
we all
Fockham
know
would.
who ran this. Yes, we all know who ran the slave trade, don't we? But we won't go into that.
Yeah,
the
wasn't
survivors
it
write the account.
Eskimos, I think, wasn't it, Eric, that ran the slave trade? I'm pretty sure it was
Jehovah's
the Eskimos.
Witnesses, I thought it was. Yes,
Yep.
it's Eskimos, definitely yes. Eskimos, yes. Yes.
The survivors write the account. And they write whatever story they want.
Well, the winners, that's right, the winners
Winners.
always...
Well, I didn't want to say winners because I hate giving them the win. So,
No, the
I
victors.
chose the
The
word
victors.
survivor.
That's right, but they
And the
write history
victors.
books.
I hate giving them the win with the
That's
victor. I hate
That's
that.
why French history books have got so many blank pages, isn't it?
Well,
You and the
right.
French, Eric.
Exactly. Bloody hell.
If in doubt, have a go at the
Oh,
French.
this is bullshit.
Actually, do you know who was the most successful army in second place next to the Roman army? The French army. They
Was it?
won more battles. They won, I think, almost as many battles as the Roman army did. Yeah.
When?
What happened to them?
Napoleonic times.
Ah,
But there was a list of, it showed you, it was actually on YouTube where it showed you who was the most successful army, and it's quite surprising it was the French, you know. So next to the Romans.
I think the
Romans
average
were-
height of the French male dropped, though, considerably after the Napoleonic Wars, didn't it?
Did it?
Because
I don't
all their
know.
strongest men were in the army. Many of them got killed. And so they lost something like 4 inches in average height across the whole of France. Because all the strongest
And
guys were
also,
out there getting killed. Yeah.
And they were one of the first countries to introduce compulsory military service, weren't they? Because
Were they? Didn't know that.
were conscripts who were actually in the in Napoleon's army. They weren't volunteers; they were conscripts.
There's so many good.
And,
there's so many good sort of things, not good, interesting. Good's not the right word. Bad things that are really compelling that are not known about from that period of history. Like there's the revolt in the Vendée, which is barely ever spoken about, where the whole of the peasants of the Vendée rose up against the French Revolution, and they killed about 165,000 of them. These were farmers and good people. I mean, this pattern's just repeated everywhere.
It was also the most Catholic area of France at the
Was
time,
it?
the Vendée.
Right.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, the French Revolution, they went after the church big time. That was they murdered tons
Yep.
of priests and nuns and monks,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they went
and established the
bonkers.
secular government that stands today. Killed the king. If they hadn't killed the king, it's just what the imagination goes wild, because here in America you had New France, and what would have happened to all of the French territory that was it Thomas Jefferson that did the Louisiana Purchase?
Right.
That was all French territory. And I suppose there was a reason that the Americans, by Americans I mean the American government, got involved in the French Revolution after the American Revolution, because it did nothing but secure their power over the country here.
Yeah,
both
that's
sides
another
of
thing
the
that's
Atlantic.
not. There's not many films about that, are there? Not that I'm aware of. Is there a film
I
about
can't think of
Jefferson in
any.
Paris or something? There might be something about that. I can't remember. I know there's
You
a book
don't
about
see
it.
too many. You don't see too many films about the founding fathers of America. You know, there are plenty of Abraham Lincoln type films, but I can't think of too many with the original American founding fathers. Can you, Paul or Frederick, think of any?
Well, there was 1776, the musical that came out in 1776.
The musical.
Yes. That they did in 1976. That was a big bicentennial year thing. I remember being in grade school, and they put us on the buses to go see the founders in
But they really
form.
don't focus
Yeah.
on that time period in Hollywood. It's like they don't want us to think about it.
Yeah. Every now and then they'll do a series on like Madison, and I remember they did that, and there was one on John Adams. But and you said Jefferson in Paris. Very few Thomas Jefferson films. But
Yeah. What's the one that they did with the musical recently about the guy who started the first Bank of America?
Oh, you're talking about Hamilton, yeah.
Yeah, Alexander Hamilton.
Oh God, yeah. I hate Alexander Hamilton. He was the Rothschild stooge spy in the Continental Congress.
Yeah. But they don't want us to celebrate that part of our history. They don't want us to know about it. I think is the main thing. Not so much even celebrate one way or the other, just to know that the real history of what went on in that era. There are plenty of Napoleon films.
You think of what they're teaching students at places like Appalachian State University, where basically the founding fathers were horrible because they were slave owners, they were misogynistic, and the Constitution is just a piece of paper, and we need to move beyond it. And that is what this whole entire generation is being taught in public schools, that there's nothing about the War of Independence that is good. There's nothing about the founding of America that is good because it was based on the original sin of slavery, and America can never be clean of the sin of slavery. And that is the Marxist mantra that these kids are being, pumped with. And so they're not going to watch a movie that makes the founding fathers anything but demons.
And that's your alma mater, that you have there at the Appalachian State University.
Yeah, I didn't go there. My father did his graduate and undergraduate work. No, I went to North Carolina State University in Raleigh. But my father and my brother and my sisters all went to Appalachian State University. It was a different place then. Everything changed after 9/11, especially education in the United States. But that is basically the thing. It's just this, the culture of critique, where they just go in and start beating on all the white guys that we were taught were heroes, and they find that foible, whatever one little thing that they did or accused of, and that's what they're taught, to break down that hero image, because you can't have any more alpha male heroes. That never going to let that happen again. Hitler, Uncle H was the last one, supposedly.
You can't honor your own ancestors, but everybody else can honor theirs, and you have to respect them.
And you have to have George Floyd Day, but don't you dare have a Thomas Jefferson Day.
Yeah, you have to tear down their statues and topple them, which was another thing that happened with the George Floyd stuff. Just tons of toppling of statues, even in England.
Right.
You all had that.
Oh, yes,
you had Black Lives Matter, didn't you?
Still got it.
You still got it. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, they BLM and Antifa in Chapel Hill tore down the Silent Sam statue that was put up by the Daughters of the Confederacy to honor the Confederate soldiers that died in the Uncivil War. And Antifa and BLM not only tore it down, but destroyed it. And it was moved off campus, and all efforts to try to get it repaired and moved back to campus have failed so far. But it was definitely a lightning rod after Charlottesville. Charlottesville was the big one to, get everybody going that all these Confederate statues need to come down. Then it was all the statues of the white guys need to come down. So they were attacking Lincoln statues, then Washington statues, etc. It was interesting when they actually tore down the Albert Pike statue, but that one I think got put back up in D.C.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Yeah, they even tried to tear down the statue of St. Louis in St. Louis.
Yeah, Missouri. I remember that. Yeah.
But they didn't. Too many people came out in defense of it. They wanted to, though. They really did.
Oh,
and he is numero uno, number one enemy of the chicken swingers because he burned the Talmud back in
Burned
the
the
day.
Talmud in front of Notre Dame. Exactly.
I don't know. That's not very tikkun olam, is it? That's not very tikkun olam.
If they want to take down, if they want to take down a
fixing the
Lincoln
wall?
statue, they can start with the Lincoln Memorial in
Yes.
D.C.
Well, there
Which
are
is
those
built like
books
a
I don't know,
on
I-
Lincoln.
temple.
I've got both of them. Who's wrote them? Just absolutely demolishes the whole Lincoln myth. They're brilliant. They were written in the early 2000s. I can't remember the name of the author, but I've got both of them on PDF kicking around.
He
It's on
hated
my-
Christianity. He wrote a whole thesis on it for his doctorate, and one of his advisors told him to get rid of it because it would ruin his political career. But he hated Christianity.
Any guy that's a pen pal of Karl Marx, right, is a twat. It's just that simple. If you can't figure it out, you know. I was just, Frederick, are you familiar with Legal Man, Lee Gallman? Do you know of him, this US lawyer? Well, I'm mentioning him to you because I think he's definitely worth following on X. And he's the guy that's the creator of this video that I've mentioned quite a bit, and I'm going to mention it again, Barnum World. Have you seen that on YouTube? Barnum World?
No.
You'll like, I think it might be right up your Appalachian street. He's wonderful. I think he's hilariously funny, incredibly cynical. I want to read, I've just looking to see if there were any posts here that were worth just, and I want to know what you guys in the States think of this. This is a minute to read, all right? This is a recent X post from October the 7th. They're very much in this vein, but I can read this stuff every day because it's invigorating, even though I know he gets exhausted. He says this, and this is equally applicable really to our situation here with the sort of mental decrepitude of the vast majority of people. He says this: one thing has been made undeniably clear. The belief that our government is fundamentally the good guy is such a deeply held belief that it just can't be shaken in the vast majority of the population. Sure, they'll believe that mistakes were made in certain circumstances or by certain particular men, etc., but they simply will not or cannot even consider the hardcore truth that our government is not the good guy, has never been the good guy, and that our entire founding story is a fairy tale designed to lock in loyalty to what amounts to nothing more than a criminal cabal to control the population and resources. And unless that changes, nothing of import will ever change. We'll simply continue falling into this Bolshevik nightmare that everybody can see, no matter how much empty patriotic rhetoric and name-calling is spewed out in an alleged defense of my constitution and freedom. He's very much in that vein. So I would recommend, on X, by the way, he's US Crime Review. If you look him up, his posts are brilliant, lots of good responses. And he's also got one here, right? You've got to go and see the picture of this. This is a post from October the 6th. You can work it out without me being, I won't have to go too detailed. There's a picture of this guy, right? You know, we were talking about people that don't have souls, and he's called Erwin Chemerinsky, and he says, Erwin Chemerinsky, one of the most celebrated so-called legal scholars around. He's the dean of the Berkeley Law School, was dean of another law school before that, went to Harvard, then worked for government, of course, and was a professor before all of that. This is the face. You've got to see this face as well. This is the face of expertise in this country. This is the face of so-called academic scholarship. Take a good look at it. Why do people trust men like this? Look again if you still haven't. It's guys and gals who look exactly like this who have made sure that physiognomy is now considered quackery. You've got to see the face. He's completely loony. Are people really this blind? Do they think that there is no connection? What is your own personal experience with this connection? We all see it in our own lives, but are shamed for daring to address it. Academia is full of people like this guy, Bolsheviks, who are destroying our way of life from within. Personally, I'm sick of these people. And he's actually far worse looking than Keir Starmer, but they've got the same inherent sort of goofy not rightness about the way that they look. This one's unbelievable. You got to, yeah. It's Erwin Chemerinsky. He's one of your guys, so you can have him. Well, he's not really. I think he's a Tikkun Olamist myself, but you know, I don't want to cast aspersions here. It's a family show, but yeah. physiognomy. I didn't realise that they don't talk about that anymore. They did a whole thing about that, didn't they? About being able to detect criminal faces. And I think when you see the illustrations, you go, oh, yeah, they are all criminals. You can just see it. It's writ large. It's on their bloody face. Yeah, is that what it is? That's the shape of the skull, isn't it? Phrenology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's totally unrelated, but in 2021, the Jerusalem Post ran an article that said that over 82,000 Israelis underwent plastic surgery and rhinoplasty nose jobs in 2021. So
That's not to be sniffed at, is it?
What was that number again? Over 80,000, you say?
82,000.
That's a sign of anti-Semitism on the rise.
Yes.
So somebody that does nose jobs, are they known as a rhinocerist? What is the name?
Rhinoceros.
What are they known as? A rhinoplastographer or something. I wouldn't mind putting that on my business card.
Well, I went to one the other week and I'm writing him a right snotty letter.
Yeah.
So Berkeley.
Pregnant
So what
pause.
was? That's all right. So who was this character that went to Berkeley Law School? It doesn't really give him any sort of,
No.
Berkeley is known as a wildly liberal sort of university. Wild.
You've got to
I
just
think
see
of the
this.
protests that
Actually,
happened
look,
in
I'll
the-
tell you what. I'm going to put the link in. I'm going to put the link into this post onto the chat. You've just got to go see this face, everybody, and then you'll know exactly what I was just droning on about. I'll stick it in Rumble. And we'll stick it into the old YouTube thing. It's just, now we're picking on people because they look funny. Well, why not? Go have a look at that face. You'll get exactly what he's talking about. So, and politics and administrative bureaucracies are actually riddled with those sorts of people. They really are. We've got them over here. They're very funny, very odd, very strange people. Very, very strange indeed.
So, Frederick, I have a question for you. Have you heard of Bacon's Rebellion in the 1667 or 76? I'm not sure when exactly.
Bacon's Rebellion.
It was okay. So at the time you had Jamestown,
Right.
and more or less you had Irish indentured servants, which are basically slaves, Irish white slaves. And then you had African, servants, slaves. And they were on the Jamestown plantation, and this fella named Bacon organized against the king. It was King Charles II at the time. And what they did was the Irish ganged up with the blacks, with the African slaves. So it was a slave rebellion. And after that occurred, they started to make some of the first racial laws in the country so as to divide the two from ever rebelling against the, should I say, the overlords, the chicken swinger overlords that were appointed at the time, and made it so that one would resent the other in order to prevent them from ever trying to establish any sort of unity to go after the real culprits in the future, like they tried to with the Bacon Rebellion. But it took place, and then it was shortly after that Jamestown was disestablished and then moved up to Williamsburg. So I just thought I'd mention that because that's like as far as racial laws in America are concerned, that was one of the first that established that.
Exactly.
As far
That
as
was the
black and
first,
white.
Rebellion, and like you said, that resulted in the Virginia Slave Codes of 1705, according to this.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
and I would imagine too, it dispossessed a lot of, say, like the Irish weren't allowed to own property and caused a lot of them to move out to places like North Carolina as a consequence to get away from there's that whole move westward into the wild territory in order to establish some sort of civilization outside of the British control at the time. Anyway, it's worth looking into if anybody wants to do any more
Yeah,
research into it. The
Bacon
Bacon
was it
Rebellion.
the Bacon Rebellion?
Yeah, the Bacon Rebellion.
It's got anything? It's nothing to do with Francis Bacon, is it?
Yeah, that was
No.
what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Either Francis or
No, not Francis Bacon. It was one of the. I think it was like a nephew of I think the guy's name was Berkeley. That was the British rep lord or whatever he was. But it was his nephew that rebelled against him.
I think
with
part
all of the
it
indentured
was
servants.
inbreeding.
Sorry about that.
Inbreeding.
Yeah.
Who was that?
Well, I just got a little post come through on Telegram from Helen. Shout out to Helen. She might not be listening to the show. I haven't listened to it, but I've just read it. It's 2 minutes and 21 seconds long, and it's about inbreeding. Shall I play it? This is politically really incorrect stuff. Let's listen to this. This looks pretty good. Looks quite... Here we go. It's to do with the UK. 70% of all Pakistanis are inbred. Should I say that? Have I just lost the channel? Okay.
We're not on YouTube, are we?
Yeah, I don't care really. We're here to do things. This is fact. Well, I won't play
I'm
it.
joking.
I'll just read it. Let me just read this out. Joe Rogan is shocked by UK inbreeding statistics, but this is serious stuff. This is to do with all this race mixing stuff. It's just another aspect of it. Why it's dangerous, like permanently, like for multiple lifetimes. 70% of all Pakistanis are inbred. Half of everyone living in the Arab world are inbred. Half. BBC investigation in Britain revealed that at least 55% of the Pakistani community in Britain was married to a first cousin. Turkey has between 25 to 30% more stillbirths among immigrants. BBC, so I'm quoting the BBC here, BBC's research also discovered that while British Pakistanis account for just 3.4% of all births, in Britain they accounted for 30% of all British children with recessive disorders and a higher rate of infant mortality. Medical evidence shows that one of the negative consequences of inbreeding is a 100% increase in the risk of stillbirths. Findings on intelligence research shows that if one's parents are cousins, intelligence goes down 10 to 16 IQ points. The risk of having an IQ lower than 70 increases 400% amongst children from first cousin marriages, which is considered to be mental retardation. And the quote at the end of this thing says, "We're going to be called Islamophobic for even bringing this up. People don't like the truth." Well, they don't. I just thought I'd drop that. There's a sobering thought as we're moving up towards the end of the show. So there we go.
In the
But it's
Catholic
serious
Church,
stuff.
it's forbidden. It's forbidden. I was going to say, Paul, in the Catholic Church, it's forbidden to marry your first cousin.
Well, yeah.
And it's frowned upon in the second cousin or any of those.
Well, it's just basically wrong. It's it's flat out wrong. Although I know some of our people have ended up doing things like that. But isn't that's what's created those sort of the people that are displayed
Dynasties?
in deliverance? Isn't that the idea behind that?
Yeah.
That's the idea, and it has occurred, and it doesn't work. Nature will not be mocked.
No.
Well, what's interesting about that is because of the Christian stigma of that the South is always accused of having inbreeding, but our actual numbers are very low, especially considered against things like the Rothschild family tree and the Warburg family tree and all these others that do marry first cousins to keep all the wealth in the family. But the actual numbers of the South are relatively low because it is a taboo here, just like incest is a taboo. But yet
It's projected.
it's always projection on that.
Yeah, and they
it's projected
use it
and-
to cast Southern people in a more negative light. It's amplified, is it, as a
Exactly.
story?
Right, Christianity. It's meant to make them seem like the bad, like the ones that do that sort of thing. Even though in certain areas in the South, they do marry a lot younger than they do in other areas. But that's the way things used to be back in the day too. It's just not. It's our modern culture that's different. So,
Are there any? We're moving towards the end. Are there anything, Frederick, that you wanted to bring up that we've not touched upon? Anything that you had in your noggin that you wanted to throw into the show this week?
Just wondering what your take on the announcement about Tony Blair and Jared Kushner to head up the peace contingency in the Palestine-Israel thing.
Well, they're
Blair,
probably the
course,
best
was
men for the
there
job,
with-
aren't they? It's on merit that they've got those roles, surely. They'd be the best men for the job, won't they? Just like Tony Blair's son is apparently part of a company that's going to get the contract for the ID system, which will not happen. We're not going to have an ID system. It won't occur, not in the way that they think. The kickback's going to be absolutely enormous.
Paul,
it already is.
Soapbox is dead air. Soapbox is dead air. I just want to let
All right,
you know.
okay. Don't know why it's done that. Why have
What
we done
happened?
And I just remember Tony Blair from the 9/11 days.
Thanks, Patrick.
And he was in charge when the infamous Downing Street memo came out that they were basically working with the Americans to cook the intelligence to go to war with Iraq. And so it's like, okay, that same Tony Blair is going to be in charge of New Palestine, New Gaza. So
Yeah,
that'll be
Eric,
interesting.
I think, weren't you, Eric, saying something about him having a mansion in Jerusalem?
It's a flat, apparently,
A
in
flat?
Jerusalem. Yes, yes.
Okay.
You took the, you actually reading my mind there. Yeah, and apparently it is alleged that he may have a girlfriend there, but it's only alleged.
A real girl?
A real
Well,
girl?
it might be a bloke in a dress. Yes. Well, I mean, his missus is a psycho, isn't she? I mean, like a great grandfather, John Wilkes Booth, who shot Abraham Lincoln.
Apparently.
Yeah.
So we're told.
He's
Apparently.
related?
Oh, and now we're back to
Yes,
Lincoln
she is
again.
related. Yes. She's what's her name? Yes, her surname's Booth.
Oh, maybe we should do a show on Lincoln and this whole war between the states thing. I've got a few books I'd need to read up on beforehand. We'd have to have you guys on talking about that because it's obviously your...
Oh, I'd love that. I've got
I
a
think-
bunch of buckets of rocks on Lincoln. Stinking Lincoln.
Yeah.
Well, apparently he was going.
thinking
He hung a load of blokes, didn't he? He was a really nasty piece of work, and he had a plan that he was going to get all the black slaves, put them on ships. It's too expensive to send them back to Africa, but dump them off the coast in South America. That was his plan. Before he got assassinated.
he wrote that great thing
It's just
about...
been mass genocide.
He wrote some interesting thing. He wrote that really good thing about the greatest opportunity for government is to issue its own money. But then when you think about him being in charge of that, it's a worry, really, if he's sharing, if he's a pen pal with Karl Marx. But it's absolutely true what he writes about that stuff. And maybe we have to assume that there was some kind of a change in his understanding. I don't know. I haven't read enough about the guy, to be quite honest. But obviously it wasn't very long after the cessation of hostilities that he got a bullet in the head. Hostilities didn't really end for him. And I have to assume, sort of in a simple way, that it was because of his desire to have the people's government, that old thing, in charge of the money supply, which of course is something that you would say he would share. There's kind of overlap with what Hitler did with Germany. These
and
things.
JFK.
Yeah.
John
And in an
Kennedy
honest
also
situation, that's what you'd want,
executive
isn't it?
order, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you think you can actually maintain honest government, but it's very difficult looking throughout history to see when that's ever really happened. Now, I guess it must have happened through certain periods. I mean, I tend to view that maybe the British government in the 1700s was pretty good. But
No, it's as bent as a 9-bob note.
Well,
It's
probably
absolutely
was,
corrupt as anything.
Are you going to take away every sort of little pathetic story I've got, Eric? I think you should.
Well,
They're probably
I
all
think I should-
wrong.
well, no, yeah, but
don't have anything
can you
nice
name
to
any
think
time in
about.
history
Yeah.
when government has actually worked for the people? It
No,
never
I can't.
has.
I
Never
can't.
will
I
do.
just every now and again I like to pretend in my head that it might have done. Just thinking, yeah, but because when you come out with these ideas, well, if we do this and we do that, but it's how do you maintain it? I mean, you're absolutely right. Even if you get good men, they go into that arena the way it's structured and they go bad. It literally turns good men bad. They can't maintain their
does.
integrity when they're in a rat sack. How
Yeah,
do you
but
do
we
that?
we are conditioned to look up to a father figure, and that's the trouble. We're absolutely, and we get this from school. this sort of
Well,
look
in
for
a
leadership.
military setting, you want a general taking action and moving large swaths of people. I mean, a good general, not just the corrupt ones that we're thinking of. But I want to know what Frederick and you think of Thomas Massey and what he's doing.
Well, that's the thing. Is he organic or is he synthetic to play this part of the lone, kind of like what Ron Paul used to be, Dr. Ron Paul. He was always Dr. No, the one person voting no against the GOP, and the Zionist party, et cetera. And so is he got a shot for the presidency run in 2028? If he's organic, I love it because I agree with so much of what he's saying. But I have trust issues after 9/11.
Yeah, you shouldn't trust anybody in particular.
Somebody called Merbailey has said Lincolnstein imprisoned 30,000 without charge just because they didn't like him. That's interesting, isn't it?
Well, he waged war on the Northerners, didn't he? They were very... many people in the North didn't want to fight, from what I understand. I'm going to have to do a bit of reading, actually. There's these... I can't remember the name of the author.
They introduced conscription in 1862, I think it was. Both the Confederacy and the North imposed it, and because they were running out of men, and there was not enough volunteers. So
there are parallels, I think, with what happened to the South and with what happened to Germany. There are parallels.
Oh, definitely. Same playbook.
Yeah.
When you start seeing that. Go see Mike King has a multi-part series he's doing on the rise and fall of the New World Order.
What's his website?
Tomatobubble.com or something like that.
Yep.
But his section on the U.S. Civil War and the rise of Lincoln is just amazing because he goes into, all the bankers that were backing all the different factions and what was happening in France, and how everything connects, and that the stuff that you don't learn at college or university. So definitely check that out.
If you have connection with him, I need to speak. I'd love to get him on the show.
I've been trying for years to get him on my shows.
Oh, sorry.
I'll try to get him on both of our shows.
I'm already trying to cadge him from you, and you haven't even got him yet. It's terrible. What an incestuous space this is.
Why don't you get him on? Why don't you get him on this show and come on with him?
There you go.
Oh, Paul, you're a deal maker par excellence. We need guys like you. You're from the Trump school of deal making. I quite like that. That's good. That's really good. Guys, it's been great. It's been really good. I've really enjoyed it. It's been lovely to have you back, Frederick. We're just drifting out. Any final words? We've got half a minute to go. Any last words, guys?
Just thanks for having me, and we'll have to do the Lincoln show. Keep me posted.
We will. Let's try and chase up Mike King. He's trying to escape us. That would be great.
He would be awesome for that show.
I think he would. Anyway, thanks everyone for tuning in on Rumble and YouTube and SOAPBOX and elsewhere, Global Voice Network. We've been here with Patrick and Paul and Eric and our special guest this week, Frederick Blackburn. Been great to have you, Frederick. And we'll be back again same time next week talking about whatever's come up. I don't know, maybe reparations for the English. Who knows? Probably not. Have a cracking week. And hopefully we'll still get some good days yet. We're having a bit of an Indian summer. Keep good. We'll see you all same time next week, everyone. Bye for now. Bye-bye.